built a tower made of paper and lies, stacked it high with the liar's disguise. But the wind's picking up, gonna blow it all down. A reckoning's coming to this hollow town. Tear it down, burn it up, let the light shine through. Trump's got the hammer, Musk lights the fuse. No more chains, no deep state blues. The eagle's screaming, we got work to do. They sold our steel, they stole our land, turned the worker into a begging hand. But the wheels are turning, the fire's alive. We're taking back what's rightfully mine. Tear it down, burn it up, let the light shine through. Trump's got the hammer, Musk lights the fuse. No more chains, no deep state blues. The eagle's screaming, we got work to do. Ghosts of the past whisper through the trees. Swamp runs deep, but it's begging to freeze. Freedom ain't given, it's a fight to the bone. Stand your ground or be overthrown. Tear it down, burn it up, let the light shine through. Trump's got the hammer, Musk lights the fuse. No more chains, no deep state blues. The eagle's screaming, we got work to do. Our work to do. Ghosts of the past whisper through the trees. Swamp runs deep, but it's begging to freeze. Freedom ain't given, it's a fight to the bone. Stand your ground or be overthrown. Tear it down, burn it up, let the light shine through. Trump's got the hammer, Musk lights the fuse. No more chains, no deep state blues. The eagle's screaming, we got work to do.
Hey, everybody.
How you doing, gentle people? How's everybody going?
How are you doing, Dr. J?
I'm doing okay. What about you, Rich?
You got a lot of good stories, man.
Yeah, I see that. I see that.
What's up, Pam? What's up, brother Jimmy? Jimmy from Philly in the house. What's up, Chris? Good to see you. Linda, how are you, girlfriend? Let's see. We'll wait for some more people to get in. What we got now? Got 11.
Looks like we got 11.
Yeah. I'm going to hit. I'm not beneath clicking my own like button. Hey, what's up, Chris? What's going on, man? There you go. There he is. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I created that. I wrote the song. I did it in AI. I wrote the song, though, like the words, but I did the music in AI, and then I just built the video. I got to do another.
We're listening to that, and I was thinking the same thing. It's a pretty cool tune, and I was going to ask everybody what they thought about it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, there you go.
So yeah, if you feel like putting it in there, just I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought it was too. I thought it came out really well. I have the other ones too, but they were old because they were all campaign. right? I wrote another song, but I haven't done the video to it yet. Oh, cool, Chris. Thanks, appreciate that. We got a boatload of news today, man. It's like
Buku news. Buku
every single
news.
week. It's like a fire hose of news, man. It's awesome. Yeah, because most of it's good. Let's go over some of it. So, Deep State is giving Hegseth the General Flynn treatment, and we're not going to let it happen. They're trying to get rid of him by the way they did General Flynn because he doesn't play bullshit. That's what this whole signal thing is about. If you watch my video on it, you know that the whole thing was horseshit. There was nothing to it. There was no locations, no methods, no people named, nothing. There was nothing classified, even though the guy that did it, the guy that Goldberg, Jeffrey Goldberg, he's the same guy that did the suckers and losers. Oh, Trump called these dead veterans suckers and losers. Like, oh, please. You know, he was in on the Russia collusion hoax as well. Let me go.
And you realize if that was classified information, he committed a felony. He committed a felony.
Well, actually, no. And you know why? There was a case that involved the New York Times, and the Supreme Court ruled that because they're the press, even though they friggin' abuse it, because they're the press, if someone leaked it to them, they're allowed to run it. Can you believe that?
I didn't think that was true. I thought
it is. Yeah, it was.
I thought if you knowingly released classified information, no matter who you were.
Well, it was until the liberal courts interfered. Now, I'm hoping, and I think Trump is trying to get that thrown out. They've been trying to get it thrown out for some time, but I believe it involved the New York Times because one of their guys and the WAPO, because they published stuff that they shouldn't have published. But then they said, well, wait a minute, we're the press. If somebody gives it to us as a leak, that's on them. You know, the law says, like the Espionage Act says, that any document, right? So if it leaves government purview, right, then it's a violation. And they said, you know, us receiving it is not any document leaving. It already left. You know, when we get it, we're not under the Espionage Act because we have a First Amendment right. I don't agree with that, but
it's called receiving stolen property. It's a crime.
Yeah, it's called receiving. You know,
you may not have broken it. You may not have broken into the house, but you bought the TV.
Yeah, a lot of people don't even realize that the Espionage Act, the one that they were going to throw at Hillary. Remember, they made a big. So, well, there was no classified, and then Comey came out and said, well, there were 110 classified documents around it. But the Espionage Act does not say classified in that section. It doesn't say. It says any document. It doesn't say any classified document. It says any document. Hey, Louis, what's going on, man? Retired Dr. J. There you go. You got that designation now. Hey, Streaky.
Yeah, thanks, Lou.
How you doing? Good to see you guys. CEO of NPR is also on the board of Signal. Yeah, too much of a coincidence. I know. These people just wait a minute, dude. That was in charge just about. Wait a minute. That dude that was in charge just about admitted adding that report. Yeah. I don't. Well, no, Waltz. I personally think. Well, Jimmy, he took the hit for it because he was in charge of getting that chat together for Hegseth. All right. But I don't think he intentionally put that guy in there.
No, one of his staffers accidentally added the name.
Yeah, that's what I heard. And I have to question, was it accidental? You know, because I mean, think about this. You still have leftovers. You know, like Trump did everything he could to get rid of as many as he could, but you still have leftovers that could be getting orders from, you know, not Biden because he hasn't been with us in 5 years, but Obama. You know, it could have been from Obama, could have been from what the hell's her name? The one that got what's her name? Roseanne Barr in all kinds of trouble. But you have Susan Rice and Valerie Jarrett. That's it. So, yeah, well, you know what? It was a stupid thing, Jim. I mean, think about it. You know, you had and of all the a-holes in the fake news media, he's one of the worst because, I mean, I go over that in my video. He was involved in a lot of other scandals against Trump, all bullshit lies. I mean, all of them. So anyway, let's get back to this. So then we have the truth just got exposed about this Judge Boasberg, and he has nowhere to hide. We got another one about him. Scott Pressler, who I met, great guy. His last warning, and you know, I tweeted this to Trump, whether he saw it or not, who the hell knows? Who am I, right? But I tweeted it to him, and well, actually, I sent it on Truth and on X, and he's warning that if the Republicans don't elect Brad Schimmel, this is in Wisconsin. It is the Supreme Court, and it's happening in just a couple days on April Fool's Day, right? We will lose 2 House seats, and that'll make the majority even thinner, right? So here we go. America First. Appeals court. We got to win here. The appeals court halts a judge's order requiring Musk to hand over Doge records because the courts can't do that. It's Article 2 authority. If they have to say, oh, well, you know what? You have charges by the FBI or whatever lawful entity in the feds, right? There's charges that come out that say that you're, who's going to do that? Especially when it's not true, right? I mean, and guys, they can't be more transparent than they've been. I mean, they're posting what they're doing. They're telling anybody. Here we go. The first official thing I've heard from Dan Bongino since he gave it all up and he became the deputy director of the FBI. It says, these docs have been stonewalled from Americans for 8 years, not anymore. So he's going to release the stuff he's talking about. This guy, Representative Dan Goldman, is quite possibly the dumbest member of Congress. AOC is right on his tail, but he's the dumbest son of a bitch ever elected to Congress. He's in all kinds of scandals. The FBI investigation of Tesla attacks is political weaponization. Okay, so
you mean the man's happy because his IQ test came back negative?
Yeah, there you go. It was negative. It really was. That's a good one. Of all my years, I never heard that one. Okay. When God was giving out brains, he was standing in line holding a thimble. How's that? But we're going to get into that. And here's one. An internal revolution was started by the communists. That's a good story. Here's one. Now, they say it's really dorky to read your own email, but a dear friend gave this to me. It was it was an email that she received from moveon.org, and it was Robert Reich who actually wrote the email for them, and I responded. It's pretty good, I thought. Here's another one on him. The Judge Boasberg, that prick judge that I just mentioned, and the Ray Epps connection should scare every American. Those are the top stories that I found for this week. Then we have Mike Johnson is actually considering pulling funding for certain district courts because, and they go, you can't do that. That's the judiciary. No, people are so stupid. They don't realize that in the Constitution, it says that there's only one court that's approved by the Constitution. That's the Supreme Court. And the way it was supposed to be was the states would go up to their highest levels. And if they couldn't resolve it after that, they would go to the Supreme Court. But the Supreme Court because we became a litigious society, the Supreme Court got so overwhelmed, they couldn't handle the cases. And the Constitution promises a Supreme Court. So that's when Congress started creating these federal districts. Then the federal court started getting overwhelmed. And that's when they created the appellate court to handle it at that level, to thin out what was going to the Supreme Court, right? So
let me jump in.
Go ahead.
I believe, if my memory serves, the clause in the Constitution is that it creates a Supreme Court and such inferior courts as designated by Congress.
Well, what they meant I don't know the designated by Congress. What they meant by that was inferior courts. It was the state courts is what they were talking about. They called them inferior, the state courts. Because I know for a fact there's only one court that was approved of in the Constitution. That was the Supreme Court. But the point is, I know she's looking it up now. She's going to slam me with it. But I know that if Congress can create a court, they certainly can remove a court, and then he's shit out of luck. He doesn't have a job.
Okay. Do you want to play your intro that you've been like jonesing to play now?
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I could do that. All right, ready, guys? I believe Dr. Jade has something. Give me a sec.
It's a Dr. Jade moment.
All right, there you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
I will take this down.
Article 3 of the U.S. Constitution establishes the judicial branch, vesting judicial power in one Supreme Court and allowing Congress to create inferior courts.
What's the link you're on?
I'm not even on a link. It's
Oh.
just type in Article 3 of the Constitution.
Yeah, hang on. So this is article3.gov.
Oh, here. Let me finish the sentence.
Inferior
Though. This is good, and this is very pertinent to what we're talking about today.
Okay.
The U.S. Constitution establishes the judicial branch vesting judicial power in one Supreme Court and allowing Congress to create inferior courts, ensuring judges hold their offices during good behavior.
Point that I was about to get to. They could if a judge is deemed not acting in good behavior, they can be removed. That's how you impeach a judge. Otherwise, it's a lifetime tenure.
Yeah. Good behavior, that's the word.
Right. And good and here's the thing, okay? Like I read a lot of books on the Constitution, and the one that I read, was it written by Ann Coulter? I can't remember what it was written up, but it was about impeachment. And did you know, I think it was Ann Coulter. Is either that or I read a book on impeachment, but I also read a lot of her articles when I used to like her. But what's it called? So what she pointed out is that the minutes of the debates that they had and the debates of the ratifiers in the colonies, right? They all came to the same conclusion that when you talk about for anybody, high crime and misdemeanor, that's for the president, that's for any other office that you have to go through the Senate to get approved for, right? Advice and consent. That the deal is that if you just do something to embarrass your office, that's the misdemeanor. So if you have oral sex with an intern in the oral office of the White House, that's enough to impeach you, right? I mean,
it's the Oval Office, not the oral office.
I know. I said that intentionally. I hope you.
But we'll get past that.
Yeah. Well, because it's Bill Clinton, right? So that's the point, actually.
But the language, actually, if you pull the actual text, the actual language is.
What's up, brother? Good to see you, man. Thank you.
The actual language is.
Awesome.
The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court,
right,
and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish.
Now, do you know what that means?
The judges, both of the Supreme and inferior courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior and shall, at stated times, receive for their services a compensation.
Right. Now, did you hear what they said in that? What you just read? It's not supposed to be a permanent court from time to time, which means that the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court
established from time to time.
Right.
It doesn't say it's going to go away.
Yeah, but
it doesn't say they go away.
Yeah, but it doesn't say that they don't go away. It says to establish, because that means that when they say establish, the establishment clause, when they say that, what they're saying is that the Congress now has the authority to establish, to create a new court. But when it says from time to time, that means there's a time limit on it. I'll bet if you look up the incorporation of those they'll have something about the time limit to get around the Constitution. I'd have
to look up the Federalist Papers and the commentaries.
Hey, what's up, Gina? Good to see you.
But it says they may be established. It doesn't. It's not specific on how to get rid of them or how to.
They can just shut it down. All right, let me play it now then. So here we go. All right, let me cue it up. Hang on.
What are we looking at?
I'm going to show you in a second. I didn't bring it over yet. I just wanted to get it ready. Okay, hold on. Here we go. I'm going to bring it up. And I believe we have. Okay, here we go. So let's play it.
Getting pretty ugly. House Speaker Mike Johnson issuing an open threat now, saying that Congress has authority to stop providing funding to federal courts. Listen to what the speaker said just a little while ago.
Listen to this.
We do have authority over the federal courts, as you know. We can eliminate an entire district court. We have power funding over the courts and all these other things. But desperate times call for desperate measures, and Congress is going to act. So stay tuned for that.
And now I don't want to listen to the bloviating by the lefties. So There you go. So they have the
Yeah,
right to shut down a court whenever they want.
Mike Johnson was going in the right direction, but I think he probably had a conversation with President Trump behind closed doors.
Well, actually, they're very much on the same page. Very,
Yeah,
very much on the same page.
I
Now,
mean,
he doesn't. No, Trump does not. I'm going to say this: Trump does not control Mike Johnson, but Mike Johnson is very much in the America First movement, and he's straight down. He's said it. I'm straight down the line with what he wants to do because that's what I want to do. So he was straight down the line with it. But there will be times when he's not going to agree. I'll tell you that right now. And but he is for it. He basically just said, you heard it, guys. He just said we can shut down, and the way they do that is they cut the funding. They can cut all funding.
He was, and they have complete and ultimate authority on funding.
Yeah, you know what else they have authority on? And this is in Article 3, believe it or not. The Congress gets a power inside Article 3. It says that the Congress has the authority to tell the courts what types of cases they can and cannot hear. So if they wanted to say, well, we don't want you to hear abortion cases, guess what? Then they're not allowed to hear abortion cases. I'm just putting that out there.
That was a big thing in the Nixon era because somebody tried to take Nixon to task for bombing Cambodia. Yeah. And the judges were all saying you can't do that. Right. And it came down, and I can't quote you chapter and verse, but it came down that no, the courts, especially lower courts, may not control national security and military activities of the United States.
Well, this is the problem that Trump's going through right now. You have all these a-hole judges out there that are doing the bidding of the Democrat losers who lost all power. And they're saying, well, we have the right to step on your Article 2 authority, even if you did nothing wrong. That's what they're saying. So when they step in and say, no, you can't deport these violent, illegal aliens until you come to a court here. No, there's nothing in Article 2 that says that, because it says that Congress has the power to create an uniform rule of naturalization. That's immigration. That's why the feds are in charge of immigration. Well, they did create an uniform rule of naturalization, and the executive branch is the one that enforces it. So when a judge comes along and says, no, you can't enforce an uniform rule of naturalization, the only answer is the double barrel. And that's why, did you know that Trump sent I believe it was a presidential memo, but he sent something to the judiciary, and I think it was to the Supreme Court, and he said, I'm paraphrasing, we are no longer going to listen to you. You already on these, they said the types of cases that they're doing, the lawfare. They said, you already have enough information from us. We're not giving you extra records and details because you would be violating the separation of powers and you would be putting our national security at risk if those documents that you're asking for were ever leaked because of the transfer to you. We're not doing it. And I think that's going to go to the Supreme Court. And I think the Supreme Court may split down the middle where they'll say, okay, if the Congress puts a vote to it, then you do have to give it over. Okay, because they're the ones that have, like, especially over something like immigration, right? They're the ones that fund everything. And so the power of the purse could say, but I believe that this court would say, yes, Article 2 is Article 2, Article 3 is Article 3. So in other words, it's not like, and I heard some idiot on CNN say, well, that's like getting the DOJ to go arrest one of these judges. I'm up for that. If you're violating,
I was going to say, could show me the film? I'll get the popcorn.
Yeah, I know. If I'll tell you what, I said this before and I'll say it again. The problem with our system is that our founding fathers never dreamed that we would have low-life scumbags like the Democratic Party has become. And so they did not create a system where we can get even. Okay. We went through 4 years of living hell. And it was, who was it? Harriet Hagman, who took over for Liz Cheney. She is a gem. Okay. She really is. And someone who's in this chat sent me a link to that video and where she was doing an interview, and she pointed out, and I looked it up, and I'm like, damn, she's right. But look, the Biden administration committed multiple crimes some of them could have been treason, the things that they did, you know, the censorship, all that stuff. But our system does not have a remedy for that in the legal sense because it's all considered political. That's like, they say, well, an impeachment, the impeachment is the trial, or I'm sorry, is the indictment, and then the trial is the trial. But it's not criminal, it's political. So the answer, and when she said this, it floored me. I'm like, how did I not see this? The remedy for all of that was November 5th. That's when the remedy came. We went through 4 years of hell. And because of that, the remedy came out. We won. And now the future looks much brighter. And we have to
Yeah, and there's certain things, like I can't remember if you talked about this in one of your videos, but there are certain things that are exclusive, Article 2, national security, immigration, and interestingly, the Enemy Aliens Act, that's already actually been through the Supreme Court, who has declared it to be not judicially reviewable. That's an absolute.
Right. And they're going after it anyway. These creeps are going after it anyway.
Wait, you know why? You know why? Basically, they're just trying to kick things around long enough that they're hoping they can run it through the political system and then maybe take over the House in 2026 so that they can affect things and get their way with they're just delaying.
They have no power. They have no power. They're using the judges.
Even if the judges are going to be overturned, they can stall and delay.
Yes, well, that's what they do. It takes an average of 18 months to get to the Supreme Court.
And you have to be very careful because even if a judge issues an illegitimate order, if you do not follow it, you can be held in contempt, which stands even if the original order is found to be illegitimate.
And do you know what kinds of pitchforks and torches would fucking happen outside of that court if a judge dared do that after Joe Biden gave the double barrel middle finger to the U.S. Supreme Court when he went out there when he was still campaigning before they yanked him off stage? And he said, the Supreme Court told me that I can't cancel student loan debt. Screw them. I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to continue.
Yeah, I found a way to do it anyway.
Right. Yeah, and you know what it was? It was, okay, so he did it under this department, and they said, you can't do that. And so he said, okay, then I'll do it under this department. How freaking juvenile is that? But so no one held him in contempt, right? Because the Supreme Court was the only court that agreed and said, yeah, you can't do that. You're buying votes. All right, let me get on this. So this was, I got an email from someone who signed up for MoveOn.org. And, well, you'll read it in the story, okay? So I wrote this last night. So a friend of mine signed up for MoveOn.org's emails, not because she agrees with them, but as an act of civic reconnaissance. Know thy enemy, she said. Noble work, really. She reads their nonsense so that you don't have to. Anyway, this gem landed in inboxes Thursday. It's from none other than Robert Reich. I say it that way because Rush Limbaugh used to say it that way because Robert Reich used to say it that way. Yes, that Robert Reich, Clinton's former labor secretary and full-time alarmist. Honestly, he fits right in with MoveOn's brand of hysteria, a perfect match. But be sure to stick around for the rest. You're here. Here's the letter, right? This is written by Robert Reich. Dear MoveOn member, where do you hear some of this bullshit? And then my response afterwards. Authoritarians, he's already starting off with a lie, saying that the Trump administration are authoritarian. Yeah, taking back power that communists took from the people and giving it back to the people. That's an authoritarian. Authoritarians benefit from an underinformed population. It's like they're looking in the mirror and go, so what else can I write about the Republicans? Which is precisely why Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and the Republican Party are carrying out the most sweeping assault on the American mind in modern history, the American mind. Trump has effectively dismantled the U.S. Department of Education, gutting its staff and attempting to close the department altogether. Yes. American children be damned. No, I think kids learned how to read and write before that Democratic Party prank known as President Jimmy Carter elevated it to a cabinet level position. Don't you? I mean, I'm pretty sure they did.
And the fact that they just did a survey of, I think it was it was a lot of schools. Was it 30 schools in Illinois?
Yeah, something like that.
And anywhere from like 50 to 500 kids in the school, and not one of them was were there were no students,
Right.
none,
Right.
that were able to read at grade appropriate level.
Right. Oh yeah.
None.
Well, and that you
None.
can thank the unions, because Jimmy Carter he did that as a payback to the teachers unions that helped get him elected. So he's cutting funding to public libraries and museums, because we don't have libraries or museums in cities anywhere, right? Invaluable places that provide internet access, literacy programs, oh my goodness, and homework help to millions. He's going after scientific research, silencing dissent. I'm never going to get through this. There's just so much fun. Silencing dissent. You mean like the president of the United States telling every goddamn platform out there to censor anybody that says anything about the COVID vax or about COVID itself or anything about the Democrats and what they're doing? You mean that kind of silencing dissent? Threatening universities, researchers. You mean like dear colleague letters that came from Obama throughout his term? And students and their free speech and academic freedom. Oh, you mean like you can't go on a campus if you're a conservative and give a speech? Detaining immigrants. No, illegal immigrants, including lawful permanent residents with green cards. Yes, because they're threatening to destroy American Western society, because they're praising Hamas with a bunch of knucklehead Palestinian supporters on a campus for speaking out. Yeah, speaking out what? That Western civilization's got to go? That's what the guy did. Mahmoud Khalid, I think his name was, right? We did a story on him last week. These efforts aren't about policy efficiency or saving taxpayer money. Sure they are. They could all fall in there. It's a policy. It's pretty efficient getting them the hell out of here, and they're saving taxpayer money. They're about control. It's about creating a culture of fear and complacency. This is just nuts. They're very transparent. Yeah, they're creating a culture of fear and complacency, and they're the most transparent in history, right? Think about this. It's about tearing down the means and institutions that allow people to think critically, critical thinking, Marxism, challenge authority, and participate in democracy. Our country is in enormous danger right now. Sure it is. That's the terrifying worry that keeps me up at night. I thought the last thing you ranted about is what keeps you up at night. But we can prevent our democracies down. We don't live in a democracy together. I believe the Trump-Musk regime will ultimately, I will try to get through this, guys, without stopping, okay? I believe the Trump-Musk regime will ultimately fail because the backlash to their authoritarianism is growing every day. This past week, tens of thousands of people across the country showed up to see Senator Bernie Sanders, $21, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Santa Maria Cortez, and the other progressive champions who have been rallying around the country to urge people to fight against oligarchy. They love to say oligarchy now because you have the tech guy, Elon Musk, who has billions of dollars. But he's not calling the shots at all. That's the difference. He's not calling shots. Trump is. He's doing what Trump asked him to do. I believe a reckoning is coming. Yeah, the reckoning is already started on you a-holes. But to succeed, we need a massive movement. Give us your money. That's where they're starting. Move On has a plan using cutting-edge technology. Yeah, they just lost their platform because they were using a free platform out of charity, and somebody bought the platform and booted them off. To reach, train, support, organize, and communicate at a scale that is unparalleled in this progressive movement. It won't be easy, but for the sake of our country's future, it must happen. Will you help? Please, will you start a $5? No, I will not. All right, I'm going to skip all that.
Yeah, the rest of the article is all basically just asking for donations.
Oh, I know, but here it is. Throughout history, tyrants have understood that their major enemy is an educated citizenry. Oh, good Lord. That's why we got rid of the Department of Education, so kids can get educated again. That's why they want an undereducated and compliant population. Good Lord. Now they're slaveholders. Slaveholders prohibited enslaved people. Yeah, let's replace that. Democrats prohibited enslaved people from learning to read. Socialists, Nazis, burned books. Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping, both pretty much on the left, censored the media. And Obama didn't censor the media. And Joe Biden didn't censor the media. Come on. Trump didn't, but those other two did. Trump and his MAGA allies are remember, MAGA extremists, right? Trump and his MAGA allies are undermining the institutions from public schools to libraries that nourish free thought and informed debate, and hoping people will give up hope and to be afraid to speak out. Move On is working day and night to mobilize a massive grassroots, right? They're not even known anymore. That we need to stop this nightmare. They're all about the grift. That's why your $5 monthly donation is so critical. I'm sorry, I can't make a donation. Authoritarians want us to feel powerless. You are powerless. You lost all power because you're a-holes. But we are not powerless. No, I'm pretty sure you're powerless. All right? We've faced darkness before, and we've come through it joining to. No, you didn't come through because you guys lost. Organizing boldly and refusing to give in. Thanks for all you do, Robert Reich.
Bit of advice,
Yeah.
bit of free advice.
Yes.
Never donate to moveon.org.
Yeah,
you will never be free of them. They
Right.
will be like a louse under your skin.
Right.
It'll be worse than sleeping with a nurse. Oh, did I say that?
Yeah, they'll ask you. Oh, man, yeah. All right, now here's my response to all that hysteria. Subject: a response to and I sent this to them. A response to the fear mongering of the left. Dear Robert Reich and Move On members, it's fascinating, almost impressive, how much alarmism can be packed into a single email. Your message reads like political fan fiction, more like political fan fiction than serious critique of policy. But since you've invited the discussion, let's clear a few things up. First, let's address the dramatic claim that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are orchestrating the most sweeping assault on the American mind in modern history. Really? Because from where many Americans stand, what's truly dangerous of free thought isn't Trump or Musk. It's the institutional left shutting down debate, canceling dissenters, and labeling opposing viewpoints as disinformation. Trump's efforts to restructure the Department of Education are not an attack on children. They're a long overdue return of power to parents and local communities. You call it dismantling. Many of us call it decentralization, empowerment, and accountability. It's not about eliminating education. It's about fixing a system that has failed students for decades while enriching bureaucrats and unions. It's all about the unions, guys. As for it's the money and the power. As for libraries and museums, let's not pretend that anyone's burning books. Conservatives believe in public access to learning, but we also believe taxpayers shouldn't be forced to fund institutions that push radical gender ideology, critical race theory, or anti-American propaganda on kids. You claim Trump is silencing dissent and threatening universities, but we all know who really shuts down campus speech. Just ask conservative speakers who are routinely protested, banned, or shouted down when they try to speak on college campuses. In other words, they're invited by the Young Republicans or whatever conservative group, and then the libnuts come and destroy everything. The left isn't defending free speech. It's defining which speech is allowed. That's a big difference, too. As for Elon Musk, let's be honest. What terrifies the left is that he dared to buy Twitter, rename it X, and expose how deeply corrupted the previous system was by government-aligned censorship. Musk didn't stifle free expression. He unleashed it. And that's the real threat to your narrative, people thinking for themselves. And now you want Americans to believe there's a rising Trump-Musk regime and that Bernie Sanders and AOC are the freedom fighters here? That's laughable. The idea that two self-avowed socialists are America's last defense against tyranny would be hilarious if it weren't so backward. You accuse conservatives of promoting authoritarianism while calling for mobilization of millions to overthrow a former president whose worst crime was deregulating bloated institutions and calling out media bias. That's not tyranny. That's democracy working exactly as it should. And it is. Let's be clear. Tyranny is weaponizing the DOJ against political opponents. I say this every single week. Tyranny is locking people out of their bank accounts for donating to the wrong cause. Tyranny is forcing speech codes, race quotas, and everything they did was based on equity, the Biden administration, and compelled ideology in every aspect of public life. And tyranny is when a political movement demands loyalty to the state while branding dissenters as threats to democracy. Remember when he did that speech in Independence Hall in Philly and he said, these MAGA extremists, they are threats to our democracy, right? You don't want to preserve democracy. You want to regulate it. But here's the good news. Americans are waking up. We're no longer buying the panic. We're no longer silenced by labels like authoritarian or extremist. We believe in strong borders, real education, true freedom of speech, and the rights given to us by God, not by government. You say 3.5% of the population can change history. Maybe so, but millions more are quietly building a future where government serves the people, not rules them. We're not afraid of Trump or Musk. We're afraid of ideologues who think $5 donations to a radical activist group will somehow save America from the very values it was built on. Let's be real. This isn't grassroots activism. It's professional grifting. It is. The same elites screaming about authoritarianism are the ones pocketing your donation dollars to fund their political influence machine, not to save democracy, but to control it. We don't need a movement of fear. We need a movement of courage, truth, and freedom. And that's exactly what's coming in the 2026 midterm. Sincerely, a free American. Well, there you go.
Yeah, remember when Trudeau stood up and said something about some people having unacceptable views?
Unacceptable views. My jaw dropped when he said that. I was like, oh my God, he sounds like Mao. Just unreal.
And he actually said that. I was.
He really said it. Yeah. When they have unacceptable views, that was when the truckers were heading to Canada and they started pulling over and blocking the streets.
Yeah, it was in and around there.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the time that happened. Let me see. What's next? Yeah, I actually sent that to them. But I didn't put the person's name, God forbid. Because then she won't be getting the emails anymore. Let's see. Deep State. Let's do this one. Let me pull it up. This next one. The Deep State is giving Pete Hegseth the General Flynn treatment, but will lightning strike twice by Revolver. We've seen this movie before, and we're not falling for it again. The so-called Signal Gate is about the Signal app, which I have on my phone. I've been using it for a while. I use it whenever I talk to Mark, the guy that we interview a lot. When we send stuff that's like sensitive, or we talk about something we don't want anybody to hear, we literally do that because he's very, not me, I'm a nobody. He's very well known and he could have people listening in. The so-called Signalgate scandal is a manufactured hit job, plain and simple. Someone was accidentally added to a Signal chat. No classified info was shared. No laws were broken. And guess what? It was Mike Waltz who added the wrong person, not Pete Hegseth. So whoever said that was right, Jimmy. I think my brother. But instead of holding Waltz accountable, the usual suspects are calling for Hegseth's head on a stick. Sound familiar? It should. The reason why is because it's the same setup they used to take out General Flynn back in 2017. The Deep State needed Flynn gone to push the Russia hoax, and they got their way. It was more than that, but he's right, whoever the author is. Now they're trying to do the same thing to Pete Hegseth because they know he's a serious threat to the military-industrial complex and their endless forever wars. Do you remember the days when the Democrats were against war? Let's also not forget this. Joe Biden botched the Afghanistan withdrawal so badly, 13 American service members died, and not a single person in his administration lost their job. It's like I could have written this because I think I did write a lot of it. All the country got was a visibly annoyed Joe Biden checking his watch during the dignified transfer. Do you remember that when he did this?
Oh, yeah.
Remember he kept doing it? And one of the fathers came out and said something, too. So it says, even after all that, there were no calls for heads to roll. I said it, too, during Benghazi, when we had 3 people, including U.S. ambassador, killed. That ambassador was there to cover up a weapons thing. They gave weapons and $25 million, like U.S. weapons, M16s, M4s. They gave them to the Muslim Brotherhood, who then gave them to Al-Qaeda. And so the Russians were saying, they were telling the news, saying, look, we were just over in Afghanistan. We saw Al-Qaeda shooting against U.S. troops using U.S. weapons. And so Obama had a re-election to worry about. And so 6 months before the election, he calls Christopher, what was his name? I forget. Christopher Stevens. He calls him to become, he appoints him, handpicks him to become the new ambassador to Benghazi, well, to Libya, right? And so what happens? He goes over there and he tries to broker a deal. Here, Stevens was the CIA region's weapons guy, the guy that made that deal that gave the weapons and the $25 million to the Muslim Brotherhood. All right. And so now he's trying to make a deal back. Look, we'll give you this, this, and this if you give us the weapons back. And he got killed. Right. And one of the things it leaked out, one of the things they were offering for the weapons back was the blind sheik. Remember him? He was still in prison for 9/11. They were going to hand him back to Egypt, and Egypt would have tried him and then let him go. Unbelievable. But now, over a minor signal chat mistake, they're demanding the ousting of Pete Hegseth. It's another deep state setup, just like General Flynn's saga, and everybody knows it. See, guys, let me explain this. And my head's not getting big. This is why I do this channel. Because, like this person here, all right, by us talking this way and saying, look, because you could listen to the left and believe, oh my God, look what they did. Oh, Jesus Christ, we could have lost our country. You know, I mean, they get so freaking nutty over this stuff. But for us to point stuff like this out, it's the hypocrisy that keeps me going because it angers the shit out of me. And so they're trying to do the same thing to that they did to General Flynn because Pete Hegseth does not represent their values. All right? The lefties, he's not going to go for wars just so they could get rich. All right? He's not going to do it. And that's why they want to get rid of him. We don't even have to read the rest of it. That's the whole point.
Yeah, I mean, they don't care. They don't care how they do it. They will use any underhanded trick in the book, any dirty, underhanded, scummy thing.
So
they will do it.
They went after Flynn for a couple of reasons. Number one, Flynn was he was what was it, DIA? He was the Department of he was the equivalent to the CIA director for the military. I forget what it was, but he used the same NSA database that Admiral Mike Rogers was running. And he was very vocal against the Iran deal. Okay. Lurch, John Kerry was out there saying, that it was a great deal. It was going to hold them off. And then the Dems all said, you're trying to fight this deal so that Iran will still have the bomb. Well, in the goddamn appendix of the deal, it's still there. It says 15 years out from signing this thing, they're allowed to have a bomb. They're allowed to have a nuclear bomb. It says it in the freaking deal. And yet they're saying, so he was saying this out loud. Okay. And then there were a few other things. He didn't like the way that they were doing other things. And like the money that he delivered, what was it, to Iran? He gave, what was it? Something, a couple $1 billion or whatever he gave, or millions. I don't know what he gave on pallets. They dropped them off in the middle of the night, like Pablo Escobar, right? He didn't like that either. And so they very visibly, very publicly fired him. And they put gag orders on him. And then Trump comes along and says, I'm going to make this guy the head of the national intelligence, right? Which would be the head of everything that's intelligence. What's up, Vamps? Good to see you, man. And so they panicked and said, oh, we got to do something. We got to get rid of this guy. So they did. And they were able to do it because Barack Obama was still president during that campaign. That's why they spied on the campaign. They wanted to get things to get rid of Flynn and also to keep Trump out. They wanted Hillary to get in there, but a lot of it was on Flynn. In fact, Barack Obama's the one that unmasked the phone call between General Flynn and Sergei, whatever his name was, the Russian diplomat, in order to make it look like the Democrat, like the Obama administration was against the Russians for buying, what was it, $130,000 worth of Facebook ads. That is the thing that got Trump to win. Like, we're all supposed to believe that, right? And so he kicked out all the diplomats, all of them, all the Russian. He kicked them out of the country. You could declare war over something like that because you're like, whoa, wait a minute, why are you doing that? What's going on here? Then they have to ramp up their military. And so the guy called Flynn. Flynn was on vacation at the time, which says a lot because Obama waited until Flynn was on. It was very public. We won. It was a hard-fought campaign. Now we're taking a rest until we go in. At least he was able to. And so he took his family to the Dominican Republic for a vacation. That's when Obama did this. And they recorded the phone call that Sergei didn't know this. They recorded the phone call that the Russian ambassador made to Mike Flynn. And basically he said, look, just calm down. Don't do anything. We're going to be in there in a couple of months. We will work this out. We know that they're awful what they're doing. They shouldn't have done it. don't escalate this. Just tell your people, don't escalate. We're not up for war. That's what he was trying to say. And so what happened was, next thing you know, that conversation became front page news because it was unmasked. Now, the masking is the law says that if they're listening, they record everything. But if the NSA later on or anybody else is listening to that conversation to pick stuff up, the split second they understand that an American is on the other end of the line, right? Then what is this? We should get Rich to play your song. Yeah, put it up. I'll play it. Let's call it. So if an American's on the line, they must stop listening. They're not allowed to listen anymore because it's a violation of privacy, right? But they can get an unmasking. It's a formal thing they go through, and they put the paperwork in. They got to unmask this because I think he's saying something, working with these foreigners, yada, yada. Well, and there's a reason why I'm going through all this and blue-eating. Sorry, it'll come to a good point. So in the end, what happened was Flynn, they lied, and the FBI charged him and said, well, he lied to us about when we asked him about the sanctions. Did he talk to Sergey on the phone about sanctions that were put on them by Obama? And Flynn said no, which was the truth. But they said that he lied, that he did talk. Okay. When Trump got in and he had released the list of all the unmaskings, because it was an unprecedented amount of unmaskings that went on. Obama made sure multiple new departments were now allowed to unmask because they wanted everything. Well, that phone call was not in the list. And that means only one thing, that the president of the United States was the one that did that unmasking, because there is a law that says the president may do an unmasking, and his request does not have to go into that register. So Obama was the MFer who actually did that because they were setting Mike Flynn up. Then another year later, they released the 302s. A 302 is a document that when the FBI gets done doing an interrogation, immediately they write out a 302 form, which is they put into words every single thing they heard and thought and felt. The temperature of the room, was their coffee good? Did he have to take a piss? I mean, you name it, they have to write it down, okay? And they got the 302s, and guess what? In the 302, they never asked him the question. Not only did he not lie, they never asked him, did you talk to Sergey about the sanctions? So they almost put Mike Flynn in prison for a total effing lie. So now they're going to try to do the same thing to Hegseth. And so by guys like us, all of us, I'm talking to you guys in the chat too, spreading like that article, right? Go out to jabberhouse.com and get the article and just spread it everywhere and say, look, they're trying to do this to Hegseth. All right. That momentum is what helps the administration. That's all. Sorry I took so long, but that was it.
You do go on sometimes, Rich.
I know. Well, that's my show, and I'm allowed to.
Well, you know, that
In
would
the
be
rules.
the thing. Yeah.
I think it's in the rules. I'm allowed to. But anyway.
Well, there's two rules. Number one, the boss is always right. Number two, when the boss is wrong, see rule number one.
There you go. That's it. All right. So let's get what do you have any ones that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I didn't run into anything particular this week. These are all your stories, and whichever way we want to go.
All right. No, I just didn't know if you saw any you wanted me to do next.
No, just go down the list.
All right, cool. So let's see. We did that one. Did I do this one? The Boasberg judge.
I don't think we talked about him, but we haven't done the story.
All right, cool. I'll pull it up. Cool. Yeah, because this is another. There's a lot of good stories here today. All right, so this is the prick judge that's really screwing with him, and he's got ties to bad people like Ray Epps. The truth just got exposed, and Boasberg has nowhere to hide. All right, nowhere to hide. All right. Judge James Boasberg has officially become the poster boy for lawfare, and that's pretty bad that it's a federal district judge doing it, too. If there's a left-wing plot to rubber stamp or a political enemy to take down, his gavel is always ready to swing. And the man's a busy bee, from running interference for the deep state during the Trump years to shielding the swamp at every turn. Boasberg isn't a judge. He's a glorified rent-a-gavel for the regime. In a recent piece, we gave him a name that fits, Antifa judge. Right. Okay, we'll read this. This is from the previous piece. There are activist judges, and then there's Jeb Boasberg. While other radical judges dabble in partisanship, Boasberg has set the gold standard. He's what every weaponized DC swamp judge aspires to be: shameless, biased, and proudly unaccountable. It's like Juan Merchan at the state level in New York. It's exactly like him. This guy checks all the boxes. Never Trump leadership, judge shopping games. Yeah, you're not supposed to shop for judges. Dems do it all the time. And no, the Republicans don't. Absurd cruelty toward J6 defendants. Boasberg isn't just on the bench. He's leading the resistance in the long black robe. I always call them the Jacobins in the black robes. Wouldn't it be just par for the course if we found out that USAID was somehow funding Judge Boasberg's activism? Can you believe this? At this point, nothing would surprise us. That's how absurd and corrupt this whole circus has become. As it stands now, with his impressive progressive resume, Judge Boasberg is an activist's activist. He's the Antifa of the judiciary. And it all starts with his availability. Boasberg keeps himself right there on the shelf, ready for any judge shopping assignment that needs a partisan rubber stamp. Need a biased bench warmer to weaponize your case? Judge Boasberg is your guy. He's not just available, he's eager. Heck, he'll probably show up on his day off just to help the regime get the ruling it wants. You can read the rest of the piece here. We're not going to do that. So it's no surprise that he's now bending over backward to protect the very criminals the American people want deported, bloodthirsty gangbangers. Now, you got to ask yourself, what kind of a freaking judge would say that illegal aliens who are violent offenders in the United States have the right to be heard? They don't. They have no rights. So it has here, Judge Boasberg ruled against President Trump deporting this. This is the famous scene. We don't have to play it because I think we get in trouble, even though there's nothing there. But the famous scene where they all come up the stairs and they break through the door. Boasberg's, that's in Colorado, but Boasberg's most absurd stunt was blocking the removal of violent Tren de Aragua gang members by claiming they don't meet the legal threshold for deportation under existing wartime authority. Yes, they do. I heard, oh, damn, I forget her name. It's, damn it, and I like her, too. She's on Breitbart. She's the foreign affairs girl. She said just the other day, she explained how Tren de Aragua, how they are not just, a gang that goes out and smokes pot and beats people up, takes their money. They're extremely organized. They got lawyers. They got their own doctors, for God's sake. They got their own judges that they pay up. They're extremely organized. They would fall under a RICO statute if they were American mafia, right? But this guy says that they don't fall. They are an army. Okay, they're a government of their own. His excuse was that Tren de Aragua isn't a foreign government and there's no war. Yeah, invading the United States. Well, it only happened a couple of buildings, right? Well, that weak legal argument just collapsed under the weight of some pretty damning new intelligence. So it turns out that the Venezuelan regime is actually behind Tren de Aragua, and there you go. They've trained, armed, and deployed these paramilitary gangbangers across the U.S. to destabilize our cities and destroy the country from the inside out. And this isn't speculation. It's documented intel from decorated CIA veteran Gary Bernstein, backed by real evidence. It exposes just how badly or deliberately Boasberg misread the law. So in other words, well, this is what they do, these lefties. They argue that Trump is breaking the law when he's not, because most people in the news media are the dumbest SOBs you're ever going to meet, and they're not going to look it up. They're just going to, well, he's a judge. He's on our side, so he must be right. Yeah. The full breakdown of this new intel is in the thread below, and it's something every American needs to read to grasp just how dangerous and twisted Boasberg's agenda really is. So it has here. Let's read it. Breaking. New intelligence briefing refutes Judge Boasberg's main objection to deporting the criminal aliens of Tren de Aragua. Biden CIA officials involved. I've seen the evidence that TDA is funded and directed by the Venezuelan government. Why does that matter? Read on. Boasberg said TDA is not a foreign government, and if you get trained by your government's military, then you're working for the government. It's as simple as that. It's like if the Biden administration forced a platform to censor for them because they couldn't do it because of the First Amendment, then that platform is technically a government organization. That was already ruled on in the past. Boasberg, it was with a town. I mentioned a few times, with a town that a company built the town. Well, they were a de facto government. Boasberg said TDA is not a foreign government against whom the United States has declared war. But that is a deliberate misreading of the text of the law. The law is quite simple. Here it is in its entirety. We don't have to read it. We just trust it. The law states clearly that the predicates for invoking the act include any invasion or predatory incursion attempted by any foreign nation or government. There you go. And that the president shall make public declaration of the event, which he did. Those conditions met? The president issued the required declaration on March 15th. But does the situation meet the other criteria? Is the criminal gang activity of Tren de Aragua perpetrated, attempted, or threatened by a foreign nation or government? Yes. An extraordinary article last week by Miami Herald investigative reporter Antonio Maria Delgado provides clear answers. Delgado interviewed a team of high-level investigators and analysts who have been following the Venezuelan regime for over 10 years. The only team member to speak on record is Gary Bernstein, among the most highly decorated CIA veterans in recent history. I spoke with Bernstein after the article was published. He confirmed Tren de Aragua was purposefully sent to the United States to destabilize the government. He said, the Venezuelan regime has assumed operational control of TDA and has trained 300 of them. So they're a trained army, if you will. They have given them paramilitary training them to fire weapons, how to conduct sabotage. So they're not those bullshit assholes that hold a gun sideways like most of our gangbangers, right? These guys are trained. They deployed them to the United States to 20 separate states. Remember, sabotage includes arson. Many of these wildfires, industrial fires, the Los Angeles fires taking advantage of wind and local conditions were started by arsonists. How many of them were paid or coerced by TDA or their surrogates? See, there's a lot of shit that our press won't even go into. Bernstein is coming forward now because 2 CIA officials leaked false intelligence to the New York Times recently, claiming the agency has no intelligence connecting TDA with the Venezuelan government. But Bernstein showed me proof of the close relationships among Tren de Aragua and Venezuelan military and intelligence apparatus. Cuban intelligence. The Cubans are all over the place with this kind of. They're down in South Africa, all over Namibia, and Cape Town. And the work of the Latin American narco terrorists. He has shared not only the intelligence, but the sources with elements of the U.S. government. So, in other words, this judge is a scumbag who is ignoring the law. What's up? Congratulations, MSNBC. Now have more employees than viewers. Yeah, probably. That's probably true. But you know what? This judge is like to the extreme, but all the judges that are doing this kind of shit, they're just ignoring the law. Got anything to say? What do you think, Jade?
I think we need to start doing something to a few of these, like freaking arrest them or something. I'm not a lawyer because I have morals.
There you go.
But we need to find the legal way that we can shut this down, because nobody is completely independent and unanswerable.
Right.
That shouldn't and can't happen.
Right.
And you have to do that very carefully, because of course, if he goes after these judges, who's going to be ranting, raving, and screaming to
Yep.
That he's doing some sort of coup.
Exactly.
So he has to do this slowly and carefully, and put a couple of them in jail.
Right.
Pull their law licenses.
Yeah. Well, I say impeach them because they're not behaving in good behavior.
Yeah.
This Boasberg is not behaving in good behavior, and it could be proven. He lied.
They have to start feeling the consequences. You cannot do shit like that knowing that you made a ridiculous judgment, and not caring because it follows your agenda, which is just to interfere, delay, and trip up the administration.
All right, guys, do me a favor. Hit that
I don't
like
care
button.
about the law.
I'm sorry for interrupting. I thought you were done. I'm sorry. Hit that like button if you haven't already. It actually helps us, please. Thanks.
Yeah, we got 23 here in the chat and 14 likes. We got nine slackers.
Don't call the customers names. All right, so here's one. We'll do the next one.
Slacker.
Yeah. Appeals court. This is good news. Appeals court halts judge's order requiring Musk to hand over Doge records. He doesn't have to. That's just a fact. Unless there's been an actual charge made against them, he can't ask for that. It's Article 2 authority. A federal appeals court has temporarily blocked a discovery order from U.S. District Judge Chutkan. You know who she is, right? She's
which one? Which case was she on?
She was on it was part of the documents case, is what it was.
Was that? Yeah, that's right. That was the documents case.
District Judge Tanya Chutkan, and she had to. I know it killed her when she had to indefinitely suspend the case because they got caught. The FBI got caught manufacturing information with the data or with the documents that were there. They added those yellow slips into the front of the packages that weren't there before, meaning those yellow slips that are filled out. That means the FBI has deemed what's in this package as evidence, and they weren't there because they never deemed that. So then they're saying, oh, look, it's right here. It says the FBI said that it was deemed evidence, and they backdated it. They got caught doing that because others took pictures of everything before they went in there. So Chutkan, that would require Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency, Doge, to turn over documents and respond to written questions about their role in advising cuts in certain parts of federal government. You know, Donald Trump is the president of the United States and the titular head of the executive branch. And the Constitution says he can pretty much rule anything he wants within the law. And he asked subordinates that he hired to do a job within the law. And so these judges think that they have the right to say, no, I don't trust you. See, that's the thing. The lib nuts start with the preconceived notion, right, that Trump is an illegitimate president. It doesn't matter. He won all 7 battleground states. He won the popular vote. He won the electoral. Doesn't matter. He's illegitimate.
89% of counties across the nation went red.
Xi Jinping helped him get elected. You know, I mean, it's just such bullshit. So they don't think he's a legitimate president. That's how they treat him. They won't say it now, but that's how they still treat him. So these judges think that they can just say, you know what? I don't believe you're doing this the right way, so I want to check on you. You don't have the fucking right to check on him. You don't have that right. Just like the executive branch can't say, you know what, Judge, I think that ruling you made is kind of criminal. I don't trust you. We're going to send feds over. It's not how it works. It says, in a ruling issue on March 26th, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit, I can't believe the D.C. Circuit put her off, granted an emergency stay on Chutkan's March 12 order, which had largely granted limited expedited discovery to a coalition of 13 Democratic-led states. Yeah, requiring Musk and Doge to produce documents and respond to questions within 21 days. That's what I say. The appeals court ruled that Musk and Doge had satisfied the stringent requirements for the stay. Exactly, because it's bullshit, and showed that they were likely to prevail if their claim that the lower court must resolve their motion to dismiss before allowing discovery to proceed. So in other words, screw Chutkan. And screw all these other, let me see. How about Doge uncovering? Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
I know. I did a video on that, Lou. Yeah, it was 11-year-old down to 9-month-old. Did you hear what he had to be funny was Musk. He said a 9-month-old secured $100,000 loan. That's a very precocious baby. I just thought that was hilarious. Oh, Bass is here? I didn't see him. Oh, what's up, Bass? Good to see you, man. How you doing? There you go. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So next, what's on the list? Dan Bongino, Deputy Director of the FBI. That's how he used to say it on his radio show. Let's see. Dan Bongino, these docs have been stonewalled from Americans for 8 years, not anymore. That's not a very good picture of him. But anyway, the American people are left in the dark on a whole host of things. Sadly, it's almost become commonplace. So when a major catastrophe occurs, we're usually getting half-truths, scripted responses, and total spin jobs. Or, hey, sometimes we get absolutely nothing, like what went down in Las Vegas. Remember the shooter in Las Vegas? And that's why they had the bump stock thing, right? The lone gunman opened fire on country music concert goers. Not really. Actually, we recently published an interesting update. Again, this is Revolver, who I like a lot now, on that very story and shared more of the cover-up with our readers thanks to investigative work from an independent journalist. And now we're circling back to another national tragedy that never got the sunlight it deserved, the 2017 congressional baseball shooting. Remember when Steve Scalise got shot and almost died? A left-wing Bernie bro fueled by anti-Republican hatred and rage, and that's what it was, because you had Democrats going up to the well of the House and the Senate saying that old people are going to get sick and die because of health care. You know, they were throwing all kinds of propaganda because these Republicans are just cruel. Like they didn't have parents who were on Medicare. They didn't have grandparents and parents themselves who were on Social Security. It's just ridiculous, but the left are very fine. So a left-wing Bernie bro fueled by anti-Republican hatred and rage, mostly thanks to our fake news propaganda, opened fire on a field full of GOP lawmakers. Honestly, there's nothing scarier these days than a misinformed Bernie bro who's been brainwashed with media's anti-Trump propaganda. Dylan Loomis, this is exactly what I've been talking about. This man is asked one simple question. What has Elon done that really bothers you? His answer is hilarious. Just more proof that these people are brainwashed and fed narratives with zero understanding of anything that's actually happened. That is absolutely true. This is beyond Dunning-Kruger effect, guys. These people, they want to sound intelligent, so they listen to their libnuts on MSNBC or CNN, and they pass them off as intelligent, and then they just repeat the talking points. But when you ask them, what exactly does that mean? Silence. They'll just repeat what they said. No, I heard what you said, but what part of that can you explain to me? They can't. No, you're just a racist. You know, so Loomis said, let's see, the answer is hilarious. Let's listen to this.
Do I want to get Elon Musk out of politics? Yeah, the world's richest man, the most influential in history, is now calling the shots.
Wrong.
What has he done that really bothers you?
He's arrogant, drugged up, naive.
60 years, USAID, billions of dollars. Do you think it made an impact in the world?
Oh, no. They have nothing. They have nothing.
Yeah, he's so upset about Musk, and yet he can't even imagine something to say.
Well, that's the thing. When you finally, and you know who used to do this a lot? Mark Dice, if you're familiar with him. I love Mark Dice. And he used to do the man on the street thing.
Yeah.
And he would just ask you questions. And then he started going around, who discovered America? I don't know, Francesco's. They just don't know who's the vice president. That's a good one. These people in California, they don't know who the vice president is.
How many continents are there?
Yeah,
that was a good one.
What continent are we on? I don't know. United States.
Earth.
Yeah, United States.
Yeah, he also I think he was the one. He used to put on like a fake wig and put glasses on and go into these council meetings.
Oh, he did it. Yes, he did. You're right. He did.
And he'd start ranting and raving about how he was.
I won't be able to get my check for free without doing any work anymore. I'm going to have to actually go to work. That's not right. I'm a Californian.
Yeah.
He would do stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, he would do that. He would go on about. I don't know. He'd go in about something about trans or whatever, but he'd go in and he'd just be trolling the hell out of them.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he did it all the time. Hey, what's up, 42? Good to see you, man. Let's see. The question is 6 times 7, not 7 times 6. That is wrong. Just all right. Hey, are you still you still doing your stream tomorrow night? 42. Let's see what else is up. Let's do the Dan Goldman, quite possibly the dumbest man in all of DC.
Now, you're not telling me that he is stupider than
AOC, yes, quite possibly. He was involved in so many. He's a guy that, like, all right, he's the one. Okay, let me just. This is just a prime example. Okay, he was on. I think it was MSNBC, and he said that there was that the U.S. flag was flying at he called it half mast, but it was half staff. The guy didn't even know what he was talking about. It wasn't on a ship. Okay, so he said that it was flying that, and he said, and that Trump had finally given the order that we could raise it again on August 8th. Okay, and there was a reason for August 8th. I forget, but and he literally went down this thing, and MSNBC, they're all listening to him, right? Like very close. And he said, now he goes, the reason why he chose August 8th, he goes, because August is the 8th month and the 8th of the 8th month. And he goes, and the letter in the alphabet that's the 8th letter is an H. So 88 stands for Heil Hitler. And he was sending dog whistle messages that on August 8th, that's when they were going to do another attack. And I'm sitting there listening. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this guy actually is an elected official. And he's the one that said,
wow, that's quite the stream of consciousness, that is.
Oh, very cool. Guys, what time is it tomorrow? It's like 7. Do you do it at 7:30? Guys, I'm going to be on 42 show tomorrow because I have the right to do 1/2 hour. So I'm going to do, I got to find a story that I do. So guys, get over there, sub him if you haven't already, but most of you guys already have because he's 42, right? Of course you subbed them. But if you hey, what's up, Special K? Good to see you, man. Yeah. So, all right, cool. Yeah, I'll look for your email, man. Thanks. 10:30 GMT. I don't know what that means. What is GMT?
GMT, that's Greenwich Mean Time. We
All
call it UTC now, Universal Time.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, 10:30 GMT. Yeah,
Greenwich
all right.
Mean Time.
That-
GMT means Greenwich Mean Time.
Yeah, it's an hour behind what I'm at now.
Yeah, of course. No, it's not. No, it's like 8 hours.
Well, no, it says here. I just said 10:30 GMT in my time. It says 6:30 p.m. Friday. Right now, it's almost 7:30. That's what it says. I don't know.
Well, what I can tell you,
GMT time. Hang on, 10 a.m.
what I can tell you
I'm 4 behind.
is that UTC, which is the same as GMT,
Right.
except it doesn't. Right now, it is 23:17, which is
Okay.
11:17 p.m.
I actually believe you, but look, that I said, what is 10 a.m. GMT my time? Okay. And right here, it says 10 a.m. is 6 a.m., 4 hours behind on Eastern time. That's what it's saying. So right here, I said 10:30 p.m. GMT in my time. It says 6:30 p.m. Friday because it thought it was Friday. So that's what it's saying.
Yeah, for East Coast time, it's 4 hour difference, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So he says 10:30, so it'll be 6:30 for me.
Yeah.
All right, good. That's what I thought. Okay, so 6:30 is good. I'm there.
Yeah, we were saying the same thing in different ways.
Yeah. So everybody, if you didn't get that education, you're welcome.
That was a little
17. I remember the last time I said to him, how many hours is that? And he wrote back and he goes, let me put it this way. I forget how he put it, but it was hilarious. And I fell down laughing. It was really funny the way he put it. But go ahead.
Yeah, that was just a PSA on Universal Time. That's all.
There you go. All right. So the next one, this representative, let me bring it up. Dan Goldman. Oh, this guy.
And he's worse than Alexandria Occasional Cortex.
Hey guys, did you see the picture? Yeah, of the left-wing Jewish guy who gets out of his Volkswagen car and spray painted a swastika on a Tesla. Oh, that's funny. How long did he last? Anyway, let's do this. Representative Goldman, the FBI investigation of Tesla attacks is political weaponization. You mean like the lawfare against Donald Trump? 4 separate cases at every level? All bullshit. All right. Only Dan Goldman. So going after dealerships and setting them on fire is political weaponization. So they should be allowed. And you know who wrote this? Jonathan Turley. You know who he is, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's the what's this? Res ipsa loquitur. Yeah, the thing itself speaks. Yeah, he's the left-wing law professor who said, I don't even like Donald Trump, but he defended him every single time. You know, it's like Alan Dershowitz, right? But this guy, he's very well respected, and it's not like he supports Trump, but he supports the Constitution. He's one of the few that's left. So for many of us who were long active in Democratic politics, that's him writing, it's become increasingly difficult to recognize the party as a new generation of foul-mouthed, censorship-supporting, mob-enabling leaders take over. That sense returned this week when Representative Daniel Goldman, Democrat in New York, claimed that the FBI investigating attacks on Tesla cars and facilities is nothing but lawfare and political weaponization. Goldman's latest controversy captures how Democrats have now entirely cut the cords of decency and moderation that once tethered their party to the mainstream of our society. That part alone is very important because the Democratic Party is losing big time right now because they no longer represent anyone. I mean, think about it. They have internal fights going on between the old timers saying, guys, you guys went too far. You woke a-holes, right? And they're telling them, shut the hell up. They have no idea. They have no moral compass. They have no power, and they don't know how to get it back, which is fine by me. Democratic leaders have been fueling the attacks on Musk and his companies, even putting national security interests aside to seek to punish him. Goldman and other Democrats have previously pushed back on criticism of Antifa and left-wing attacks. However, Goldman's criticism of the FBI task force on these widespread attacks is otherworldly. Goldman this week declared, quote, "This is political weaponization of the DOJ. Trump uses his official authority to defend his benefactor, Elon Musk." Elon Musk isn't being attacked. These are real freaking Americans that are either selling or buying or driving a Tesla, right? The FBI then creates a task force to use our law enforcement to crack down, what did he spell? Enforcement to crack down on adversaries of Musk's,
Yeah, there shouldn't be an apostrophe S there.
Right. Where are the Republicans so opposed to lawfare? So yes, there have widespread attacks on Tesla charging stations, vehicles, and dealerships, including multiple arson attacks. It is clearly political violence orchestrated against an American company and American property owners, including individual citizens, to push consumers away from buying Musk products and associations. That sounds a lot like the definition of terrorism. The Justice Department defines domestic terrorism as, quote, violent criminal acts committed by individuals and or groups to further ideological goals stemming from domestic influences such as those of a political, religious, social, racial, or environmental nature, end quote. I have long criticized the expansion of terrorism definitions. However, this fits even the narrowest definitions. It is political violence. The Marxists have always had their street army. It is political violence designed to intimidate and harm those with opposing political views. The fact that they are lone wolves like Daniel Clark Pounder, 24, who set himself on fire after throwing Molotov cocktails, does not change that criminal intent. The Democrats have long been accused of belittling or dismissing the seriousness of such crimes. That was the case with the Molotov cocktail throwing lawyers in New York who were given relatively light sentences under the Biden administration.
Oh yeah, I remember that. You
Remember
remember
that?
Or they caught these people and then it kind of came out as like, oh, they're actually lawyers.
Yeah, I remember that. It is also evident in the reaction to the recent attack on a conservative in the New York subway. There is a sense of license among some on the left in carrying out attacks on those on the right. It's exactly correct. This is how rage rhetoric of leaders like Goldman can fuel violent rage in the most unhinged elements of their party. As I previously wrote, quote, what few today want to admit is that they like it. They like the freedom that it affords, the ability to hate and harass without a sense of responsibility. It is evident all around us as people engage in language and conduct that they repudiate in others. We have become a nation of rage addicts flailing against anyone or anything that stands in opposition to our own truths. And I'm going to give you my own theory why that happened. It's because we had to dumb down society because certain Democrats that get elected are dumbasses that should have never gotten elected. So by dumbing down society, they have no moral compass, and they feel that acting out in rage and fake outrage, which is what I call it, that somehow gives them moral authority when it doesn't. All it is you're acting like an idiot and you're harming people, innocent people. So he says,
and you just accuse other people of doing what you're doing.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. You always said you want to know what a Democrat's up to, just see what they're accusing the Republicans of doing.
Yeah. I mean, and look at where the finger's pointing and just turn it back at them, because that's what they're doing.
Right. So he finalizes it by saying, once released by the rage from the confines of reason and civility, it is easy to dismiss the investigation of political violence as political weaponization. In attacking the FBI investigation, Goldman is the very voice of an age of rage. And he's right. They're trying to justify rage. It's like when they say, a Democrat will say, well, nobody should be the victim of political violence, ... unless they deserve it. That's the part not said out loud, that they all wink at each other. Unless they deserve it. Hey, Sheila. What's up? Hey, Paca. How you doing, man? Ludwig. Good to see you, man. Wow, everybody's coming in. Nice. Very cool. Gang's all here. Everybody hit the like button if you haven't already, please. It actually helps us. Let's see. What's next? We did the Bernie bro. Internal revolution. Let's do. Oh, here we go. The Ray Epps connection. I know a lot of guys would be interested in this. The same asshole Judge Boasberg. Ready? Judge Boasberg, Ray Epps connection should scare every American. Same a-hole. James Boasberg isn't just some random DC judge. He's the deep state's go-to gavel. He's the loyal foot soldier in the left's lawfare machine. When the swamp needs a ruling to punt, yeah, we already know. Okay, and nowhere is that more obvious than in the case of the very mysterious character Ray Epps. Ray Epps, the guy caught on camera urging people to go into the Capitol. We all know who he is. Got a slap on the wrist. The connection between these two men, Boasberg and Epps, should concern every American. It's one of the clearest, most flagrant displays of the left's weaponized lawfare to date. In case you've forgotten, Ray Epps is the guy caught on camera urging people to storm the Capitol. Here's just one of them. We'll watch.
Tomorrow, we need to go into the Capitol.
Murder Fed.
No! Peacefully. Fed. Tomorrow, I don't even like to say it because I'll be arrested.
Well, let's not say it.
He's a Fed.
We need to go. I'll say it. All right. We need to go in.
Shut the fuck up, Boomer.
To the Capitol.
Did you hear that?
Posting? All right. We need to go into the Capitol. I didn't see that coming. Okay.
Monument Hill.
Stop speaking. We are going to the Capitol, where our problems are. It's that direction. Please spread the word.
And yet nothing happened to him, right? We've seen it. And yet nothing happened to him. Nothing, right? Let's see. Where were we? All right, so we saw that. So Revolver's Darren Beattie was one of the first to blow the lid off the Ray Epps story. Back in 2021, he was asking the hard questions the media refused to touch. Many of those questions still haven't been answered to this day. How far? We don't need to watch that. Kash Patel, Trump's new FBI director pick, has also raised serious questions about Ray Epps, and those questions will hopefully be answered now that he's in charge. See, the progression of it, if you forget, guys, the feds, everybody kept saying, what about Ray Epps? You're saying all these other people were saying charged, and nobody said it, but Ray Epps actually did, and he's caught on video multiple times, right? So it finally got too much, to become too much, and so Merrick Garland said, all right, we got to cover this bullshit up. Go out and bring him in, ask him some questions, and release him. And that's exactly what they did. He said, well, we talked to him. We're convinced, the FBI, we're convinced that he had nothing to do with that. Oh, really? So the videos where he said, we're got to go into the Capitol. Let's go into the Capitol. That's where our problems are. That's what he said. Right. And so they gave him probation. You had fucking guys that got 24 years when they weren't even in D.C. Right. You got Brandon Strzok, who never went into the building, and he was charged. But Ray Epps, who's telling people, we got to go in, you got to go in, everybody, it's that way. Come on, please. Let's see what he said.
I think as a former federal prosecutor and a public defender who defended a lot of these types of cases, what you need to show is whether or not the FBI and government agents were using undercover operatives and informants on the day of January 6th. Because if you can show that, they've been out. Hang on. But the paperwork shows having run informants, that's a 6-month buildup minimum. Right. Minimum. It's not like they just dropped them into the Proud Boys and said, hey, go, don't disrupt, please. So once you prove that, then you defeat the insurrection narrative with the FBI's own documentation. Forget what the videotape shows.
Just for people who you can't see what's going on in the room, the reason why Cash just said hang on or whatever is because I started smirking and rolling my eyes. And what I meant to convey with that is, come on, we know they were involved. No, look, I totally agree. Though. Yeah. I'm not saying I know definitively. What I'm saying is a reasonable suspicion is that there were agents. There's a video showing a guy with an earpiece pulling people into the building. All right. Mm-hmm. You combine that with the evidence of Ray Epps, and it looks like you have a preponderance of evidence suggesting there may have been federal law enforcement involved in making that thing happen.
I'll get you beyond a reasonable doubt. Two pieces of information. Ray Epps was on FBI's most wanted list one day, and the next day he was off of the FBI's most wanted list. Right. There are only two ways that happens. You die or your informant. Put that aside. Under congressional testimony, Jill Sanborn, who I used to work with, the head of the FBI Counterintelligence Division, in charge of all these investigations, testified under oath when Senator Cruz asked her, flat out, were there federal agents involved with January 6th? And she said, quote, Senator, I can't answer that at this time. Not if the answer was definitively no, having been a DOJ FBI guy myself, she would have gone there and said, nope, absolutely not. The reason she said I can't answer that is because of the same stonewalling they gave us during Rustergate with Christopher Steele, Halper, and everybody else. It's the same narrative, and I'm telling you they were there.
Unbelievable. Yeah. So and now you know why they didn't want Cash to be confirmed. Because he knows all of that, because he's been involved in pretty much anything you can think of. What the hell are we talking about? Yeah, sugar and cinnamon on those puppies. On what? Let me go up. I love that cereal. What cereal? What cereal are you guys talking about? I haven't had cereal in probably 20 years.
We make our homemade cereal.
Of course you do. What's it made of? How do you make it? Seriously.
Oh, you start with oats, and then you put other stuff in it. Everything from cranberries to nuts to, and it makes a nice granola mix.
FBI got it to it. Exactly, man.
Well, haven't they actually proved there was at least 24 paid informants? What do they call it? Confidential human resources?
I heard 19, but you know what? I'm not going to dispute numbers. But yeah, they had paid informants that were within the crowd. And they go, oh, that's normal. I don't know about that. I don't know. And one of them, I've told this before too, but one of them was the guy that went into the Proud Boys, and they accepted him because they didn't know he was an informant. And then when he met with his handlers, FBI agents, they didn't write this shit down in their 302 either. That's a felony. Well, what they did was they said they tried to talk him into changing his story, because he told them, look, not only were the Proud Boys not involved in some organization or an organized activity to overthrow the government, but the Capitol Police were giving them thumbs up because they were grabbing people, running into the building and pulling them out, saying, you can't do that. It's against the law. It's illegal. Don't go in there. And yet they charged them anyway. And he said, they had me there for hours trying to get me to, threatening me and all, trying to get me to change my story, but I wasn't going to, because I was telling the truth. They even threatened to charge him with crimes, that he was lying to them. And he was like, I'm not lying. And look, they got the leader, the Proud Boys, they gave him 24 years. I think he's out now, but because Trump pardoned him. But 24 years, he wasn't even there. He was in Maryland at the time, and the Proud Boys did nothing wrong. See, the thing is, Republicans are not allowed to protest. That's the point.
No, the whole point is that my free speech is violence, and your violence is free speech.
Exactly. And so when and you know what it stems from? I truly believe this. From do you remember the Tea Party? Remember when the Tea Party was big? Okay. I have from sources, and Dan Bongino talked about this too, but I knew beforehand that the Democratic Party, that was the first thing that really scared the hell out of them, because they were like, wait a minute. These guys are libertarians and conservatives that got together, and they're actually organizing, and they could literally take seats away from us because they're serious. All right. And
well, that's why they needed
became rhinos, but
that's why they needed J6.
Yes.
That's why they needed that. In fact,
but the point
they
is,
were hoping, they were hoping, they would have been delighted if it would have turned deadly. If there would have been,
that's why
people showed up. If there would have been people that showed up with weapons and some cops would have gotten hurt, that would have been perfect. Okay. They are such animals that they would have been happy to see cops die to have a political weapon.
Right.
Because, of course, if the rioters would have become violent, what was the violence? Some pushing and shoving?
Yeah.
If the rioters truly would have become violent, that would have been the end of it.
Well, that's why the pipe bomb was there outside the DNC building, because if the riot didn't happen, they wanted something for the 11 o'clock news to say, oh, MAGA extremists had a pipe bomb outside the DNC building, and the vice president-elect was in there at the time. Anything to trash them.
And that's why Ashley Babbitt died, because they were determined that somebody was going to die.
Yeah, well, that guy. See, that's another thing. And I think they can't go after him. That guy. I think they can't go after him. He's now retired. They put him out to get him out.
He was one of the ones that got a pardon, didn't he?
I think he did. So they can't go after him.
So it all depends on what they do with those pardons.
And the week after, Linda, what happened was some of them committed suicide. The one, Officer Sicknick, they first started out, MSNBC and CNN came out and called Trump supporters animals who bashed his head in with a fire extinguisher. Well, it never happened. Okay. And they never redacted it. They never took it back and apologized.
He died of a stroke the next day.
The next day. Yes. And here's the evidence. Okay. He was texting his family the day of J6 when he was outside saying, it's hard to breathe because of all the chemicals they're firing at these people. So he was saying that to his family members. Number two, when some of the videos got released, Tucker Carlson played it on his show when he was still on Fox, and that's why he got fired.
I saw it.
He was on there and said, look, this is Officer Sicknick right here. He's supposed to have been dead by having his head smashed in by a fire extinguisher. He goes, but he's wearing a Capitol Police helmet. He goes, and here he is doing his job. He was inside the Capitol building, walking down and doing things, right? He goes, so what was that all about? And
keep going on. I'll be right back.
All right. So let's go to the next one. Let's see, what else we got? Let's do this one. It's about the communist revolution that has started. It's an internal revolution started by the communists. Okay. Everyone knew that there would be violence once Donald Trump returned to the White House. It was just fait accompli. He has been the most demonized man in America for the past 8 years, and there are a lot of people out there who have deeply internalized the propaganda that has been relentlessly pounded into their heads. At this point, there is no president in the history of our country that the left hates more than Donald Trump. Just the mere thought of him can provoke uncontrollable rage in many leftists. Yeah, it's TDS to the max. So it was inevitable that there would be violence, and I am entirely convinced that what we have experienced so far is just the beginning of a tsunami of civil disorder. Me too. I think they're going to get far worse than they are now. During the past couple of months, Tesla vehicles and Tesla dealerships have become favorite targets of those that absolutely hate the changes that Donald Trump and Elon Musk have been making to the federal government. The following, and they don't even, I would say most of these idiots don't even understand the changes. All they're being told is, Trump he's destroying our democracy. And they're just going out and attacking Tesla because it's Musk that's carrying out finding fraud, waste, and abuse, right? Let's see. Connor O'Keefe said, in recent weeks, there's been a sharp increase in violent attacks aimed at destroying cars and other property carrying the logo of Elon Musk's electric car company, Tesla. In Colorado, a woman was charged with using Molotov cocktails to set multiple cars at a Tesla dealership on fire before painting the word Nazi on a store sign. In Oregon, one man fired a rifle into one Tesla dealership. Can you imagine being so effing angry on politics that you fire a rifle into a car dealership while someone else fired shots and threw explosives into another? These people are lunatics. But what do they say? January 6th! I mean, it's just nonsense. In Washington, 4 Tesla Cybertrucks, which I think are the ugliest goddamn things, 4 Tesla Cybertrucks were set on fire. A Tesla sedan was covered in gasoline and set ablaze on a city street, and various other Cybertrucks had swastikas painted on them. 7 Tesla trucks. And what's funny is that the Nazis were left-wing socialists just like these a-holes, but that's another story. 7 Tesla charging stations were burned in Massachusetts. 2 Teslas were set on fire in Texas. Several Teslas were shot and lit on fire in Nevada, and much more. As recently as Monday, multiple fire bombs were discovered in a Tesla dealership in Austin, Texas. I was there a couple of weeks ago. It's clear that these are, at the very least, copycat acts aimed at Elon Musk and anyone who owns or is interested in buying a car from his company. We have seen attacks happen over and over again, and a number of perpetrators have been arrested. Needless to say, it isn't moderate Democrats that are committing these acts of violence. We're not watching 12 minutes of that. In almost every case, the ideology of those who have been arrested is on the far left of the political spectrum. In fact, a 36-year-old man that has been charged with a series of attacks in Las Vegas is being described as a potential communist. An alleged communist has been arrested in Las Vegas for setting several Tesla cars on fire using Molotov cocktails before firing rounds into the burning vehicles on March 18. Paul Hyan Kim, or Hyun, who cares? 36 was charged on Wednesday with 15 offenses, including arson and destroying or injuring personal property valued at $5,000 or more. That's the threshold. Police told a press conference the following day. Las Vegas Metro Police also said Kim's social media indicated that he was a potential communist with pro-Palestine affiliations, according to Fox News. Even before the election, many on the far left were openly talking about a need for a revolution if Trump won. Of course they were. Michael Anton talked about it in 2020, and he said that there was a revival of those, what do they call them, war games that they played on 2024. And it was all about violence in the streets, communist violence in the streets, a color revolution. Now that Trump is back in the Oval Office, the chatter about a revolution on social media has only intensified. Guys, get your gun permits, get your guns, keep them in your house, carry where you go if you live in a blue city. Most conservatives have no idea how serious their people are about their plans. Of course, many on the far left don't use the term communist anymore. Instead, they will refer to themselves as socialists, anarchists, revolutionaries, or progressives. Same thing. But at the end of the day, their ideology is pretty much indistinguishable from the ideology of other communist movements all over the globe. Many conservatives are downplaying the threat of the far left violence, and I believe that is a huge mistake. Yes, there have been some incidents that have been quite funny. For example, one of the radical leftists that attempted to ram his four-wheeler into the side of a Cybertruck should have known that it wouldn't do any damage at all. I mean, there were videos of guys hitting them with sledgehammers like Elon's people just to show. All right. Apparently, this particular individual vandalized a number of Tesla vehicles, and Texarkana police reported on Facebook that they now have him in custody. All right, what else? Well, that is great news, but there are thousands of others just like him. Get rid of that. And in this environment, Elon Musk is not the only billionaire that is being targeted. A Robin Hood mentality is starting to take hold in America. And there are apparently many leftists that are convinced that it is okay to shoplift from Whole Foods because it is owned by Jeff Bezos. Now, remember, they used to love Jeff Bezos because he was a leftist. But now they hate his guts because he had one meeting at Mar-a-Lago. He kissed the brass ass of Donald Trump when he won. Take Jesse, a 30-something tech worker who until recently would steal entire bags of groceries from Whole Foods with his roommates. A friend at Instacart tipped them off to the opportunity. With so many personal shoppers roaming around the aisles, workers weren't going to notice another person loading bags or whether they were paying for what was in them. Yeah, that's fine. I never felt bad for the corporation as a whole. Yeah, they're communists. So stealing something that does not belong to you is always wrong. I mean, you have to actually say that shit to these people. It doesn't matter if it's owned by a billionaire or by a homeless person. Stealing is wrong. Unfortunately, so many leftists in our society now believe that morality is relative. They do. Well, I don't have anything and he has more than me, so therefore he owes me. What? His ancestors stole from my ancestors. They have created an entirely alternate reality for themselves where it is okay to lie, cheat, steal, and firebomb Tesla dealerships. And in this alternate reality, Donald Trump is literally the devil. I thought he was literally Hitler. Wasn't he Hitler?
Hitler, Mao, Mussolini.
They said he's literally Hitler, right? Literally. I thought Hitler was dead, but I could be wrong. Yeah, since Trump is literally,
I don't know. I think there's still a good chance that he escaped and went to like Brazil or Argentina.
Well, they said he went to Argentina, and there are a lot of knocks, but he'd be too old now.
I mean, by now, but we know a lot of the upper brass did escape.
Oh yeah, and a lot of them they created families that had money because they stole all the gold and everything else, but they had money and the artwork and all that, and they moved into other countries. And they eventually got into their politics, which is why you have a lot of the socialism over there, because they were Nazis. And this is the whole reason why scumbag Putin said that he didn't want, which I don't like Putin, but I happen to agree with him on this, that he said we're the only country that doesn't have that Nazi socialism in it. And that's why we don't want NATO forming, circles around us. They're enclosing on us, and they are. And he said, Ukraine was the final straw because we would have nukes on our border now if they joined. Yeah. So we don't want that.
Have you ever noticed that Mexican beer tastes a lot like German beer?
Yeah, probably. I haven't noticed because I don't drink Mexican or German beer, but okay. I used to have a Dos Equis every now and then. All right. So since Trump is literally the personification of evil in their minds, they desperately want Democrats in Washington to be much more aggressive with Trump. Mike Arnold, 74-year-old Air Force veteran from Cathedral City, California, said he attended a Kana event in Norco this past weekend because he got tired of screaming at the TV. Like Siegel, he said he isn't sure the country will make it to democratic elections in 2026. Trump, he said, is advancing an authority. I would love for them to finally explain the authoritarian agenda. We had Robert Reich saying that earlier when I read his bullshit email from Move On. But what's the authoritarianism? Bullying white shoe law firms, what? And universities, and calling for the impeachment of judges who rule against him. No, he's calling for impeachment of judges who are using lawfare against him. They are the ones. This is how I love the libs. They turn it around. Oh, Trump is trying to impeach judges that are ruling. No. They're violating Article 2 authority of the President of the United States, and that's why he wants to go after them. They don't have the right to do what they're doing. The courts might not hold, and if the courts don't hold, the only next thing is the military itself. Yeah, these people are lunatics. I mean, think about it, guys. When Bud Light did the Dylan Mulvaney thing, right? Did conservatives go out there and start burning down Bud Light shops, the manufacturing? Did they go and burn down beer distributors that sold Bud Light? They start beating people up. No, they just stopped buying it. They just stopped buying it, right? So what's up with the left? And we're supposed to be the violent ones, right? So we just stopped buying it. And you want to know something? We did much more damage by boycotting them. And they gave up on it, and they did a mea culpa finally. But, we did more damage by not buying their product anymore than these a-holes are doing, trying to set fire. We never went set out to harm anyone physically.
Do you remember what the libtards said when conservatives boycotted Bud Light?
No.
Oh, they called they're always calling conservatives names, but
hey, Commander, what's up, brother? Good to see you.
They were saying all kinds of things of how horrible it was, and that you were harming average people, and you were this and you were that, and you couldn't do that. You had to buy Bud Light. I mean, it's like, fuck you.
Yeah. Now, Chris Rock, it wasn't Chris Rock. It was not
Chris Rock. It was not Eminem. Was it Eminem?
No. It was Christ, I got a mental block now. Cowboy. Kid Rock. Thank you. It was Kid Rock.
Kid Rock. Thank you.
Yeah, it was Kid Rock who did it. And they were saying, yeah, well, he was violent. No, he bought a case of Bud Light on his own property and used his gun to shoot it down. That is not violence. That's shooting up piss water. Sorry. Kid Rock. Yes. There you go. Thank you. Anyway, let's see. What's next? Yeah, so the left, the guys in the know are saying that the violent revolution is just starting, that it's going to get much worse. The more that Trump does, it's going to get much worse. And these a-holes on the left don't seem to realize he's actually doing these things for them too. I mean, think about this. How can you say that you love your children and grandchildren, because there were some 70-year-olds, you love your children and grandchildren, but you're willing to put them into debt, into government debt their entire lives because you want to have something now spent on you? How can you claim you love your children and grandchildren when you're putting them in unfathomable debt that's gonna raise their tax, going to lower their living standards? I mean, how can you do that? And yet these idiots, all they know is hate. They have nothing else to live for. They just know hate Trump, hate Musk, got to attack anyone that has anything to do with them.
That's their only platform.
That is their platform. And yet
that's it. They have no platform.
MSNBC and CNN that are never, and Next Nation News, whatever it is, that are never going to mention that. Say, well, you know what? You guys are pretty violent. Well, they have a right to be. I mean, no, nobody has a right to be violent. Everybody said, the guys that actually rioted, like, we think they should be charged, but not all these other people that just went into the building, right? Now I have different thoughts after I've seen a lot of the videos that I think some of the rioters weren't actually rioting. They were trying to fight back against rogue cops who I think were those informants that were firing rubber bullets and tear gas at them when they were doing nothing but standing around. They weren't even protesting it. They were just standing around talking to each other, listening to music, right?
And the guys that are out there burning the cities down, they're just peaceful, mostly peaceful
fiery,
protesters.
But mostly peaceful. Yes,
yeah,
that was
fiery,
the headline.
But
fiery, mostly peaceful.
And I mean, has there ever been a more palm to forehead moment
I know.
on the news than when that guy said fiery, exactly, but mostly peaceful? Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet, if somebody came to burn your house down and you shot them, they'd be all over how terrible you were for,
Oh yeah. For
they would burn you down. They'd burn your house down with you and your family in it. Yeah. And nobody would say a word. And if they caught them, they would just say, oh, well, they had such a terrible childhood. But if you defended yourself,
I'll tell you what, one of the beautiful things that just happened in the 2024 election is that all of those prosecutors that the woke prosecutors that George Soros funded, they lost. I think like 80% of them lost their races. So, yeah, you know what, Chris, you're right. What the left doesn't realize, see, Remember that song, Try That in a Small Town? Remember that? Okay. That whole message was, yeah, you guys can get away with that shit in the big blue cities because you're not going to get arrested. But try that shit in a small town because they're packing and they're not going to put up with your bullshit. Yeah, the 2020 Summer of Love. I like to call it the St. George Floyd Summer of Love.
And the Japanese said it. I forget who said it. It was during or right after World War II. And somebody asked one of the higher ups why they didn't invade the United States. And the comment was because there was a rifle behind every blade of grass.
Oh, they said that? Really? I never heard that.
Yeah, there was a rifle behind every blade of grass.
Who actually said it?
Let's see if I can find it.
Because I know that Hitler during the war asked his people multiple times to go after, what was it, Switzerland? And each time they came back and said, can't do it. And they're like, why? They go, they have 400,000 people that are in their militia at any given time that are dead aim shots, and they're all armed to the teeth. This is why they become neutral all the time, and nobody will mess with them. So I believe that, but I never heard that. That's very interesting. I never heard that.
Yeah. It's okay. Did you want to play the moment again?
What moment? Oh, yeah. Okay. Are you actually going to read? Okay. Here we go.
I'm going to say something here.
Okay. Here we go, guys. Get ready. We're going to have a Dr. Jade moment.
It's a Dr. Jade moment.
All right, there you go.
Okay, so the phrase, quote, behind every blade of grass is a rifle, is a quote often attributed to Japanese Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, referring to the potential for widespread resistance in the United States during a hypothetical invasion. The phrase is commonly attributed to Japanese Admiral Yamamoto, who famously said, "You cannot invade the mainland United States. There would be a rifle behind every blade of grass." However, that's probably misquoted.
Really? It says that?
Yeah, the fact is, the quote is unsubstantiated and almost certainly bogus, even though it has been repeated thousands of times in various internet postings. There is no record of the commander-in-chief of Japan's wartime fleet ever saying it. Blah, 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 blah. Somebody named Goldstein, who's the dean of Pearl Harbor historians, and he said, "I've never seen it in writing." It has been attributed to the Prange files, the files of the late Gordon W. Prange, chief historian of the staff of General Douglas MacArthur, but no one had ever seen it in writing or cited it from where they got it. Some people say that it came from our work, but I never said it. As of today, it is bogus until someone can say. So it's been attributed to Admiral Yamamoto, but I think it's one of those things. If it's not, it's one of those. It's one of those things that if it's not true, it should be true.
Yeah. Wasn't Yamamoto the same? They called that ship the Yamamoto and the Yakamura, the largest aircraft carrier ever built.
Yeah, Admiral Yamamoto. No, this one I know is true. Right after, because he was involved in the planning of the invasion of Pearl Harbor, and right after the Pearl Harbor, and they told him how successful it was, and he apparently just shook his head and said, "I fear that all we have done is woken a sleeping giant."
Woken a sleeping giant, yeah.
That one he did say.
Yeah. Battleship Yamato. It was a battleship. Okay.
Yeah, no, this is Yamamoto. He was the admiral.
Yeah. All right. That was Yamato, a Dr. Jade moment, guys. Let's do the next one. What's next? I think we did. Oh, yeah, we did. We did all the America First. Requiring must have handed. Yeah.
You know what's interesting about Teslas? Those people have been pointing out that you're burning Teslas, and most of them are probably owned by lefty Democrats.
Yeah. Well, I know a couple people that own them that are like conservative, but
Oh, I drive a Tesla.
yeah, you too. You do, and I know Pam, who's a friend of mine. She has a Tesla. I think her husband, her kids, everybody has a Tesla. Yeah, so they all have a Tesla. So let's see what's next. Deep State getting Hegseth. All right, let's go up top. Scott Pressler's last warning. Elon Musk.
Oh, what about this Social Security one? The banking.
What is it?
It's in red.
40%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do that one. It's a video. Let's play that. Hopefully,
This is amazing. This is amazing.
Hopefully, I don't have the commercials.
Are you worried about
Yeah,
tariffs
dude.
and the damage
Damn
they'll do
it.
to your savings?
Sorry, guys.
Add physical gold to your retirement plan.
On here.
This $36 gadget cleans any bathroom.
Good Lord.
It's a new handheld scrubber that's already.
I'll say the two improvements that we're trying to make to Social Security are helping people that legitimately get benefits, protect them from fraud that they experience every day on a routine basis, and also make the experience better. And I'll give you one example is at Social Security, one of the first things we learned is that they get phone calls every day of people trying to change direct deposit information. So when you want to change your bank account, you can call Social Security. We learned 40% of the phone calls that they get are from fraudsters.
Listen to her.
40%.
That's right.
Fraudsters.
Almost half.
Yes, and they steal people's Social Security is what happens. Is they call in.
The Democrats had to know this, did nothing about it.
They say they claim to be a retiree. Then they convince the Social Security person on the phone to change where the money's flowing. It actually goes to some fraudster. This is happening all day, every day, and then somebody doesn't receive their Social Security. It's because of all the fraud loopholes in the Social Security system.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, you know, they keep saying that Trump wants to shut down Social Security and Medicare. No, he wants to shut down Social Security and Medicare going to illegitimate fraudsters.
Yeah. And here
I want to hear about this MS-13 one.
Yeah, we'll do that. Hold on. You got to think. What Trump is doing is trying to bring the country back to a semblance of sanity. Get rid of the fraud, waste, and abuse. But these lefties, the Democrat street army, they don't understand that because well, first of all, they're not too bright, but they don't understand it because they're just listening to their echo chamber and their own politicians who are saying, no, he's trying to destroy people and kill people. They don't realize he's trying to make things better for you, you dumbass, in the long run. And they just don't get it. So you want the MS?
You know, it's like that meme. I don't know if you've seen it. It's a guy sitting in a Starbucks with his $10 latte, wearing a Che Guevara t-shirt, typing resistance emails on his $5,000 MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
You know,
but he's against the capitalist pigs.
But
that actually make that shit. You know, that's what kills me because think about this, right? They hate the billionaires, right? So how does he get that iPhone? Because he didn't come up with the frickin' idea, right? Some rich guy had the idea and he realized that he was one person. He could fund the idea and explain the idea and hire people to actually build to invent such a thing, an iPhone, right? And so he goes and does that. He puts his own capital up. These jackasses, the Jacobins on the streets that are going after Tesla, right? They didn't have any part of that whatsoever, okay? But because of all the work that guy did and the people that he hired, he makes it affordable for these a-holes to be able to have one, right? But yet they're trashing the billionaires because they make money, because they make products that people want to buy and they become billionaires. It's the same with everything. I mean, you think about it. Your car. Somebody came up with the idea to build a car using their own capital to do it. And if they didn't use their own capital, then they got venture capital, but they are responsible for that. They're the ones that pushed it from an idea to your front yard. Right? And yet these a-holes go after those guys. So everything in your life that gives you the sense of, I live in a civilization, right? Like, think about it. When they first started coming to this country, how did they get water? There were no faucets. Somebody invented that shit, right? There were no houses. You had to build that shit on your own, right? So these guys, they don't understand that one percenter was the guy that made your life livable. Without them, what would you have? Right? So I just never understood how ungrateful they are to the people that make their lives comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, somebody invents this. Somebody, they invent it. They take it to development. They market it,
Exactly.
and
That's right, Budgie.
and then they aren't allowed to benefit from it.
It's just crazy. Everything's supposed to be free, right? Fuck you.
Yeah, no, it's the Bernie Sanders model. I know. I'm sure he got thrown out of a commune for being lazy and not contributing.
Right. Why does the left hate the rich? Aren't most of the liberal Democrats in Congress now rich? Yeah. And I think it still is, but for decades, the top millionaires in Congress were always Democrats. Always.
Well, something like 75% of the richest counties in the United States are solid blue.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then, do you remember how Bernie used to go, tax the millionaires, get the millionaires.
Billionaires and millionaires.
Yeah, now he doesn't talk about millionaires. You know why?
He is one.
Because he is one.
Yeah. He used to do that. Billionaires and millionaires. Now it's billionaires. Let's see. My grandpa always said, if you got it for free, you were swindled. Your grandfather was a very smart guy.
Yeah, if you got it for free, it was probably worth what you paid for it.
Exactly. Yeah, it just boggles my mind that these a-holes don't realize that, their entire life. Like, think about this. The phone that they are typing anti-American bullshit into was created about those top 1%, right? That was created by a top 1%er and made affordable for them.
That's in their hands because of an entrepreneur.
Yeah, exactly. Who used their own money, their own time, their own ideas to give them something. Let's go to the next one. You want this MS-13, right?
Yeah, I want to see this MS-13 one.
Okay. So let me bring it up. It's a tweet, is what it is. But here we go. It's viral news, New York City. So, growing threats of MS-13 in Midwood, Brooklyn. For over a year, a troubling rise in gang-related violence has gripped the Midwood neighborhood of Brooklyn with MS-13. And you don't hear this because the Democrats there don't want to let you know. With MS-13 at the center of many of these incidents, the gang's presence is becoming more visible with graffiti tags appearing throughout the area. Let me make it bigger. Some of which have been crossed out, signaling turf wars with rival gangs. Law enforcement sources and local residents have noted a pattern of brutal attacks like MS-13, linked to MS-13. The following incidents highlight the growing danger in the community. The bodega stabbing, remember that? Bodega stabbing. In a horrifying attack at a local bodega, a group of MS-13 members confronted a man and demanded to see his tattoos. Show me your tattoos, right? Upon revealing them, the gang members brutally stabbed him, reportedly up to 20 times. Miraculously, the victim survived. Let me tell you something. MS-13 has also been sent here by their own countries. Okay, they're like, I think that they're far worse than Tren de Aragua, because these guys will cut your head off and put it on a spike just to send a message.
Well, I gotta throw in here because MS-13 is from El Salvador,
right?
A prison gang,
right?
And there's been a big change in the politics in El Salvador.
They have the largest prison
and
in the world now.
Nayib Bukele, in fact, we all know he created this big supermax prison.
Yep.
I think it holds like 2,500 or 25,000 inmates. It's a ridiculous number. I can't remember. 2,500 inmates, I think. But anyway, when we sent those flights of deportees,
right.
He actually said, "Oh, you know what? There's a bunch of MS-13 guys in here. Thank you very much. We've been looking to chat with them."
Right. Well, I remember that. Yeah, the president down there was saying, "Oh, we'll take those guys in. Yeah, we'll take them for you." Absolutely.
Yeah, but there was some MS-13 guys there because that guy isn't messing around.
I know he's not.
He has turned El Salvador in from the most
crime
violent
capital of the world,
nation,
most dangerous place in the world,
to the safest now. It's pretty much the safest in South America.
See what they do? The way when they walk, they have to have their heads down. They're not allowed to go around. They wear underwear. He puts them in underwear to demoralize them, so they don't think that they can take over the guards and whatnot.
And when they walk in, I don't know if you saw this part. They walk in, they get nice beards and long hair. Guess what's the first thing they do?
Shave them off.
Yep, they get clean shaven heads, clean shaven face.
It's the same reason why the military does that. It is when you become a boot, it is to strip you down of any. You are no different from anyone else, and you have to work as a unit, and you're nothing. They're going to build you up from the bottom up, and that's why they do that.
Yeah, and you know, in SEAL training, when the guys are selected to go to SEAL training, and this I obviously was never a SEAL, but I'm told that very typically the guy who stands out in the first week is going to be the first guy that's gone.
Wow.
Because in SEAL training, individual ability is less important than teamwork.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes, you've got to be in shape. You've got to be able to carry your weight. You got to do all of this stuff. But they don't want stars. They want a team.
Right.
So if you're a star and you're, thinking it's all about me, you're not going to make it, because it's not all about you. It's how you can work in a team.
Right.
And the guys who stand out like that it's like, pulling the straps and I'm the greatest and, kiss my behind. First ones to drop out.
Yeah. Next week, we're going to add on another stream. It's going to be, we're going to go to MagaBook. You can go to magabook.com. I know the guy that owns it. It is Facebook without the censorship. Check it out, guys, if you can. It's got everything Facebook has just about. And I know the guy. The guy's a good guy. I used to write with him when we worked for David Harris Jr. He was also a writer. He's also he's a talk show host. He's a conservative talk show host. The guy has his own show. So
I interrupted you in the middle of the story.
Oh, it's all right. You didn't interrupt. You chimed in.
I chimed in.
Supermarket murder on McDonald Avenue. 2 suspected MS-13 gang members stormed into a supermarket and assaulted a man with metal pipes, killing him on the spot. These people are animals. And we got judges saying you can't send them out. Nearby shooting, just a few blocks away from the supermarket attack, another incident occurred where a man was shot, believed to be another act of MS-13 violence. Bensonhurst slaying. In a separate incident in Bensonhurst, a man was viciously stabbed to death, his body left in a pool of blood. Sunset Park Drive by Sunset Park drive-by. MS-13 violence has also spread beyond Midwood. In Sunset Park, multiple suspects on scooters carried out a drive-by. Can you imagine it? Leaving the streets riddled with bullets. Residents in the area were left terrified as gunfire erupted in broad daylight. Let me stop for a second. Does anybody know where the hell Bobbity is today? Where is he? I didn't see him the whole time. Anybody know him, like personally? Reach out to him, say, dude. Business owners in the area have told me that after a stabbing, the same gang members often return to their stores issuing threats. They warn shopkeepers that if they speak to the police, they will be next. Many store owners live in fear, knowing that these criminals feel untouchable. Well, that's because they are, because they're in New York. Quote, the worst part is they don't even care if they get arrested, one business owner said. They know they'll be out in weeks or sometimes not even spend any time in jail at all. See, this is what these left-wing Soros-funded prosecutors do. They let violent criminals out. They kill the bail laws. And then they wonder why the people there live in fear. But they don't give a shit about the people that live there in fear. They don't care. And so now there's a big thing coming up. It expanded, Jade, that in the next census, the 2030 census, all the same blue states are going to lose another seat, maybe two. And you know that you lose an elector every single time you lose a congressional House seat. You lose an elector. And they're losing them to red states. So the red states are going to get stronger and the blue states are going to get weaker. And it's because of the shit like this that we're reading right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, and we know for a fact that the 2020 census was jacked around, and they've even admitted it. It's like, oops, bad us.
Yeah, sorry, we made that mistake. Yeah, it was a mistake. Sure.
Yeah, and I'm going to pull this out of my head. I believe it was, I remember Maryland, New Jersey, and I want to say maybe Illinois. We're going to lose. Maryland and New Jersey, and then Texas and Florida, and Iowa. We're going to be picking them up. So yeah, that's definite red shift.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I know California is losing another seat. New York, maybe Illinois, and who's the other one? It might be Minnesota.
Yeah, and then we need the Supreme Court to revisit their census decision and
about
fix
letting
that
illegals in. Yeah. It's just unbelievable. Well, the Constitution doesn't say that they can't count illegals.
It doesn't say that you should count them either.
Exactly right. Yeah, it's just unreal. Was Uncle? Yeah, he was. He was here last week. Uncle Bobbity. Yeah, he was. He's probably doing something. I hope he's all right though. But anyway. So there we go.
And then,
so we know
they're saying
FUBARD. Go ahead.
Yeah, they're saying, this is actually blown out of proportion. It really didn't happen. And I love this. I saw a reel where the various politicians say, no, that didn't happen. And then they show some footage of them invading the building.
Right. All right, guys, I'm gonna play. I got to get my email up to see if they write me. I'm going to play, and even, all right. I thought that was good.
That's actually a pretty good video.
Yeah, I thought it was. It was the first video he's ever done that he had like a real director.
Yeah,
I told him, give the guy props.
I think it's actually a pretty good video.
Yeah.
And listen, are we allowed to show that Marine Corps recruitment ad?
Oh, which one? The yeah, probably. The one that
Vance does voiceover. JD Vance does voiceover for epic new recruitment ad for the Marine Corps.
Yeah, we're gonna do that. Let's do that story. It is a story, so yeah. I don't know where...
I'm kind of keen to see that because the last few ads.
He was a Marine, so
yeah. The last few recruitment ads for Army and Marines that I've seen have been by, well, I had two mommies and they took me to, the protest, and now I'm an aircraft mechanic. And it just, why?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care who you sleep with or how many.
I know.
Can you do your job? Yes, no, check one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's also a thing like when you talk about the trans and the military, the esprit de corps. Okay.
Well, you got to be careful about that.
Yeah,
and
you
here's
don't.
something about that too, is that I know when I got in the service, they do intake physicals and intake dentals, because there were people that would sign up for like a 3-year contract and get $40,000 or $50,000 worth of dental work done,
Right.
and then leave at the end of
I
the first
remember the
contract.
Coast Guard had a rule for a lot of years. I don't know if it's still there, but I remember they had a rule that you had to have straight teeth in order to get in, and that was to eliminate people that didn't want to go into the Marines, the Army, Navy, Air Force. Yeah,
just to get their dental done.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, you go in and you sign up for your most basic contract, and you get 50,000 work.
Let's get back to the other thing. My son, he serves in the 1st Cavalry right now, and he told me, I said, so what's up with all the trans stuff? And he goes, well, at least the Biden administration was smart enough not to do that to the infantry guys. I said, so you guys don't have to. He goes, no, it's all around us. He goes, it's fine, let them do what they're going to do. And he goes, but they don't get involved in the infantry. They don't do it. I'm like, good. That's good to know. I felt a lot better about it.
The thing is, you start right at the top. They talk about all this integration. Okay. One of the tasks that somebody has to do is to be able to pull their fellow soldier out of trouble. So the average woman isn't going to be able to do that. So
Oh yeah.
Anyway, let's watch this ad. Let's look at the ad.
Yeah, let's do it. So I'll just read a little. JD Vance does voiceover for epic new recruitment ad. Now, guys, let's preface this. What they were doing, what the Biden administration did was, I have two moms. They were showing people coordinating between the military and the NSA, saying, my two dads. So they were doing all these crazy ass commercials, and China and Russia were laughing their asses off at us. Like they think that this is going to bring, and that's why recruitment dropped. It like almost collapsed on them. I don't understand why don't people want to join. It's morons, right? So it says Vice President JD Vance visited Marine Corps base Quantico on Wednesday. Remember, he's a Marine, okay? Where troops met him with a warm welcome. Of course they did. During his visit, he delivered a speech, spent time with service members, and engaged in hands-on activities that highlighted his deep ties to the military. After addressing the Marines, Vance stepped behind the counter to serve lunch before heading to.
She grew up with a silver spoon in her mouth. She's from a rather prominent family, and she wanted for nothing.
Right.
She grew up well, and if you listen to some early interviews with her, she's actually fairly well spoken in those interviews. I don't know if she's that.
She puts on the ghetto.
I don't know if she's that bright, but she was very polite and thoughtful.
Right.
Now.
Well, she has power now, and so she wants to rise up the ranks of the party, and so she's going to act ghetto.
Well, now she's got to, we're keeping it real here, bro. Keeping it real.
Right.
Yeah. Although I tell you, I think best thing that could happen for me is that the Democrats put forward AOC and Jasmine Crockett for 2028.
That would be funny against JD. Yeah,
against JD and whoever he picks.
I would like to see who he picks. Yeah, that's
Byron Donaldson.
Oh, Byron Donalds? Yeah. Can you imagine?
Donalds. I always say Donaldson. It's Donalds.
Can you imagine those two? Oh, that would they would be carrying on Trump's legacy.
Yeah, JD and Byron Donalds.
Oh yeah,
I think that would be.
Yeah, they would actually. Yeah, they would carry. So let's see. Oh, good. No, I can't do that one. It was Bernie Sanders wants America to know that these air traffic controllers have our safety in their hands. And it's like a woman with the blue hair. Oh, this is great. This is a good one.
What one are we doing?
Ready? Black people clash with white liberals over voter ID laws, decry racist comments. All right, so let's just watch this.
What opinion on voter ID laws?
Yeah, they're usually pretty racist and they're bad. I think voter ID laws are a way to perpetuate racism.
Would you go as far as say those laws are racist?
For sure.
Do you think it suppresses the African American vote?
Definitely.
Interview.
Because they're less likely to have state IDs.
Minority voters are less likely to have the kinds of IDs that have been described or required.
These type of people don't live in areas with easy.
Did you hear of these kind of people? Oh my God,
That
that's
is so.
the good
that is-
blacks. They know how to do it.
That is so condescending.
Unbelievable. Well, the whole idea that saying, well, black people aren't smart, and they don't say that, but they go, oh, they can't get an ID where they are. Really? And then you talk to black people. I saw a couple of them where they interviewed them, and they were like, of course I have an ID. You can't do anything in America without an ID. It's like they know, right? But and I think that was the other thing that turned a lot of black people off of the modern Democratic Party, because they were very insulting, like you said.
Access to DMVs or other places where they can get identification.
You can always get IDs. You do over the internet. Does that also make it difficult for black people in particular?
Yeah, you have to have access to the internet. You have to be able to pay an internet
Yeah, black people, they can't afford the internet.
service provider for certain fees.
Do you think that's harder for black people to go online?
Well, I feel like they don't have the knowledge of how it works. A lot of people have smartphones, but you might not have data. For most of the communities, they don't really know what is out there just because they're not aware or they're not informed. I also think there's a repression of black voting with how if you're a convicted felon, you're not allowed to vote and everything. And when you look at swing states like Florida, that's a huge population of the African Americans.
Now I'm here in East.
So we're to believe that Florida is a solid red state, right? And that black people aren't conservative at all. They're Democrats, but they're living down in Florida. Oh my God.
Harlem to ask black people their thoughts on what you just heard. Do you have ID normally? You carry ID around?
Yes, I have state ID.
Do you carry ID?
Yes, I do.
Do you know any black person who doesn't carry ID?
No. Everyone that I know has an ID. Why would they think we don't have ID? That's a lie.
Racist as fuck.
Why would they say that?
Do you have ID?
Yes.
Because I have my ID and my friends have their ID, so we know what we need to carry around.
Yeah, everybody that I know have ID. That's one of the things you need to walk around with New York with.
Yes.
ID.
Can't
do anything. Do you know any black adult who does not have ID?
No, I don't.
Is it a weird thing to even say that?
Yes, it is.
What is this? Some type of trick candy cameras?
I know, right? That's the only thing I brought with me.
Those legit IDs. I heard a lot also that black people can't figure out how to get to the DMV.
Really?
What does that say to you?
I know it's that on 25th Street.
Do you know where the DMV is around you?
It's on 125th Street and 3rd Avenue, I believe.
You know how to get there?
Yeah.
Did you have a problem getting there?
You see, in other words, Democrats treat black people as if they're just helpless morons, and they need them to get them through life.
And they never get anywhere without white liberals. White liberal Democrats.
It's so insulting. And for years, imagine how clever they were, because for years that party convinced a lot of black people that the Republicans were the racists.
I know these sound like silly questions. You know how to get the DMV?
Of course.
You know where it is?
Yes.
You can get there?
Uh-huh.
No problem.
No problem.
Just checking.
Okay.
And I also heard a lot that black people, especially poor black people, have no access to the internet, can't figure out how to use the internet.
What are you talking about?
That's just stupidity, honestly. Everybody has access to the internet. Even a little kid could figure out how to work the internet.
I had access to the internet for years.
You know how to use it properly, right?
Exactly. I do it at work. So, of course, I know how to use it. My kids know how to use it. They all have iPads, iPods.
In other words, they're no different from anybody else, but Democrats would argue.
Whatever.
Your phone has data?
Mm-hmm.
You can access
Unlimited.
Unlimited data.
Mm-hmm. I use my phone as
Remember, Joe Biden said that poor kids are just as smart as the white kids.
I was just thinking of that quote.
Remember that? when he said that.
I remember
They're
that.
just as smart as the white kids. And we're like, oh my God. And he was never pained by that. He won the elect. Well, we know he didn't win, but he became president.
The people who had this perception of black people.
They're pretty much ignorant. That's what my thought process was.
I just think that's ignorant.
Yeah,
ignorant.
That's the word I'm
Very,
hearing
very
a lot.
ignorant. Very, very ignorant.
Does it sound racist for somebody to say that?
I think it is a little racist because, you're putting
It
people
is.
in a category and you have no idea what you're talking about.
And I'm one that says, you know what, this whole you're a racist bullshit, they've overused it. The left, they've overused it. But this is really racist shit.
Yeah, I mean, they're the ones who are racist. It's the Democrats who are freaking racist.
I mean, think about it. They really believe it too, or they're just lying their asses off. And you got to understand too, the reason why they did this was why. Because they didn't want voter ID. Because with voter ID, they'd never win enough. Did you see the map of the United States with the states that Kamala won? They were all no voter ID laws. Does that tell you something?
Yeah, and have you looked at a county by county electoral map
of
2024?
It's redder than red.
It's amazing. It's a sea of red.
Yeah, it's a
sea of red.
Yeah, and the Democrats have nobody but themselves to thank for that. Think of what they did. Mandated experimental medicine. Censorship. God.
The problem is they've been doing this for decades and getting away from it because they could go to one place and say something, and they could go the next day to somewhere else, put a different fake accent on, and say something completely different. And all of a sudden, it turned into the 15-minute news cycle, and it just didn't work anymore. And so all of a sudden, people are realizing the lies they've been telling.
Look at the shirt.
Like this.
Beautiful.
But like I said, I think it's more stupidity and ignorance.
You're judging somebody, but you're judging them because they're black, saying that they don't got it.
Yeah, they are.
People are they talking to? Who are these people talking to?
Do you have a problem that if you go to vote and they say, "Can we please see your ID to make sure you are who you say you are"? Are you
Love
cool?
showing my ID.
You have no problem with that?
Nope.
Would you have a problem if when you go to vote, if they say, "Can we please just see your ID to make sure you are who you say you are"? Do you have an issue with that?
No.
Would you have a
You show it with like a badge of honor, man.
problem if there was a rule where you have to show your ID in order to vote?
I don't think so. No.
Would you have an issue if there was a rule saying you got to show your ID before you vote?
Nah.
You cool with that?
Yeah.
There you go.
There is, unarguably so, only one reason to not want voter ID for voting.
Go on.
One reason. That's it. There's only one reason. There's only one reason that you can support not affirming an ID to vote. That's it. Because you want people to vote who shouldn't vote.
Who shouldn't vote.
It's very simple.
Exactly
But,
correct.
I mean, it's the same thing when they talk about, these immigrants, and we shouldn't be so inhumane to these immigrants, even if they're illegal. I mean, after all, who's going to pick our lettuce?
They said that. Oh, I heard.
Can you believe it?
I heard people.
Can you believe they love these immigrants?
Who's going to pick our lettuce and other crops? They said that thinking that they're like arguing in favor of illegals.
And so basically, you love the illegals, but that's all they're good for is to pick your lettuce.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And
wow.
And for the vote.
Wow.
Now,
Well, of course.
I love it that Trump is getting rid of all these people that they brought in to help them politically. See, what they were the whole plan, guys, was bring in as many people as you can from third world countries, spread them all over the United States, and then when the census is coming, when they start to do the census count, blue states would offer them all the freebies in the world, free healthcare, free welfare, free everything. They would flood to those blue states, count them up, and give them their electoral votes and their congressional seats back. That's what the plan was. Meanwhile, it harmed a hell of a lot. Lake and Riley. I mean, the list goes on of people that were murdered. There's people out there that were murdered by these illegals that we haven't even heard of because the press doesn't want to talk about it. It harms their narrative. And then think of the money that was spent on these people. Think of U.S. aid and FEMA. FEMA spent money on illegals. Are you kidding me? To house them in New York and other blue states and cities. And so now, after they put us through all that shit, right, using up the resources of cities that, that citizens actually paid for, right? And now they're all getting shit back. So it was all for naught. But they harmed a lot of people in the process. It's just unreal that we actually lived through that. I mean, it's just unreal.
Yeah, what's really still very special, though, is that the media still behaves like it's 50 years ago. Because remember, 50 years ago, if it was in the New York Times, it was the God's gospel.
Oh, yeah. Well, they don't
That
have...
was it.
That's the thing. That's why Elon keeps saying we are the media now. Because think about that. I'm not tooting my own horn, guys. I know that sucks, but a lot of people would trust what I'm saying and guys like me are writing and saying more than they would MSNBC and CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS. Magni, what do you want? My dog's crying.
Well, I've said it before. Thank the good Lord for people like you, for you and people like you, Rich, because, that's why, little old you, that's why the Dems have been trying to shut this down and censorship, because you know what? This shit gets out, but they still think, the media still thinks it's 50 years ago. They think they can say what they want, and everybody's going to go, oh my, really? Oh my.
I try to point out, like in my writing and my videos, I try to point out little nuances, little things that the media won't do. And so that people get a better understanding. I mean, I know you guys already know all this stuff because you guys are awesome, but I try to, for people that, don't know, I want them to understand that, like what we just did, that when they say it's racist to have voter ID laws, it's not. Jimmy was around. You talking Jimmy from Philly? Yeah, he was in the house, but he's probably doing something now. I haven't seen him in a while, but he is here. Shit always gets out. Yeah, exactly. Shit always gets out. And I try to do things so that people have a perspective that they're not going to get on the mainstream media. And so, I mean, sometimes I do things and people are like, why did you talk about that? Because there's a lot of people that don't know that. I try to spread the word to get it out there so that people understand that there's always a reason why the left does what they do, and it's never what they tell you.
Well, the thing is, again, they think it's 50 years ago. It's like the whole find people on both sides kerfuffle. Well,
I know
he said that, but all of the mainstream news cut the video off before and after that statement. And what he actually said, as we all know,
right now, by the way,
I'm glancing up at that. What he actually said was, there's fine people on both sides, except for the neo-Nazis and white supremacists who should be denounced.
He said, they should be condemned totally. But,
and the thing about it is, how many interviews did I see where, and I think, I want to say it was Caitlin Collins. It certainly is her style of interview, and she's doing the usual ambush crap and saying, "But will you denounce them?" And he says, "Yes." And he keeps saying that he denounces them, and it keeps coming back around. And then at the end, he says, "But he wouldn't denounce them." I mean, I must have seen a dozen or more pieces of film in which he says, I denounce them. But they keep
came out and
thinking,
said, I don't know how many times I have to keep denouncing them, but you guys keep asking me. You know why? Because they want him one time to say, I'm done talking about that, so they can say, you see, he didn't denounce them when he did. And then the one time that they thought, this is it, this is going to get me the award of the year, the asshole journalist of the year, and he literally denounced them. So what did they do? They edited that part out of the video. This is unreal.
And they don't understand that we have at our fingertips the same ability to fact check as the New York Times does right now.
Right. Now, there was a story that I was going to pull up, and it's the Washington Examiner, and they're charging for it now. They didn't earlier, but the story was that Trump pulled the security clearances of Wilmer Hale, which is a lot. Wilmer Hale is the law firm that Bob Mueller, that Bob Mueller, Russia, that he worked for. They hired him when he left government. He was last thing he did, I think he was director of the FBI. He screwed that up. And Wilmer Hale, I talked about this before, but Wilmer Hale was the firm that their top client was China, the Chicoms, and they bragged about all the deals they used to get for trade. In other words, they were saying, oh, yeah, we got these guys trade and we got this deal for them and that deal. In other words, screwing America over in trade to get better deals for them. So they hire Bob Mueller because of who he knows, right? You do that. You hire a guy who knows everybody in D.C., and the law enforcement and all that, and the U.S. attorneys. So they're going to listen to him, right? So you hire him. Well, what happened was all of a sudden they're paying him like $2 million a year, just to use his name and his connections. So all of a sudden there's this guy that comes along. He says he's running for president. And he's saying, yeah, and we're gonna reset those trade deals with China because they have unfair trade deficits, right? And we want to fix that. And so China calls the number one client, calls the law firm and says, you got to do something to take this guy out. Next thing you know, they put Robert Mueller on a leave of absence so that he could be named the special prosecutor against Trump on the Russia bullshit, right? And there was a guy, an influencer, that had more listeners than Rush Limbaugh, but nobody ever mentioned that. And I love Rush, guys. I love Rush, but I loved him. But and so he was the only one that was saying, Wilmer Hale, you're the one that got you went after Trump. You got your guy, Bob Mueller, to go after Trump because China called you. He had the whole scoop. And so the next thing you know, he gets booted off of Facebook, and then within hours, every other platform. All right. It was Alex Jones. Okay. And the reason he was booted off of Facebook was because Facebook was Wilmer Hale's second biggest client. So they asked them, can you boot this guy, Alex Jones, off? And then everybody else will follow. So the incestuous nature of the lefties, even at places like Wilmer Hale. So now Wilmer Hale had all the security. So we're waiting for the judges to come in and go, you can't do that, when he certainly can, right? Because they did it to Perkins Coie. Perkins Coie was the law firm that did the Russia. They hired.
That's Hillary's. That's Hillary's.
Yeah, they hired Fusion GPS, who hired Christopher Steele, who hired Elaine, whatever her name was, to write the stupid thing, the dossier. But I mean that's what all these people are. So, but now they're charging for it, so I can't get in. There's a paywall. Sons of bitches. We could do one more. Let's see, Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, let's do. We got one more in us, right?
Yeah, let's see. Charlie Kirk has one. How long is that? That's 10 minutes. We're not going to do the whole 10 now.
Yeah, don't do the whole 10 minutes.
What other one I have? Shuts down judges demands. Oh yeah, this is a good one, guys. This is Trump. This is awesome, and I hope he gets away with it. But you ready? So Trump admin shuts down judges' demands with state secrets privilege. There's a State Secrets Act. The Department of Justice under the Trump administration has officially invoked the state secrets privilege to withhold further information from U.S. District Judge James Boasberg regarding deportation flights involving Venezuelan nationals. In other words, what he's saying is, screw you, you trying to weasel your way in to interrupt my Article 2 authority is a national security issue. So Laura Loomer, God bless her, So she writes, President Trump and the DOJ invoked the state secrets privilege as a means to block Boasberg from receiving classified information about the deportation flights for Venezuelan Tren de Aragua gang members. All right. So the DOJ informed Boasberg on Monday evening that no additional data, I read this off in one of my videos this week, no additional data related to the flights will be provided, citing national security and diplomatic concerns. The notification came in response to Boasberg's March 18, 2025 order demanding more information about the government's operations involving the removal of the Venezuelan criminal aliens. Boasberg, an Obama-era judicial appointee, has been pressing DOJ officials for more transparency. He has no right. They're not.
But you know what? The beauty of this is it's called turning the tables.
Yeah.
Because the whole point of Boasberg's order was not that it would stand, not that it's just or legal, but it throws a wrench in the works and puts in delaying tactics.
Absolutely.
And what the Democrats aren't used to is the Republicans playing the same game and taking a boot to their nuts and saying, oh, yeah, well, maybe we're not going to get away with this state secrets act, by the time it's all over. But you know what? We got you by the short and curlies right now, and you can't do anything right now.
Right.
And that's the same tactic that they've been trying. And, sometimes that's the only way to deal with a bully.
Well, yeah. And here's the thing. What Trump invoked is within his rights of Article 2 authority. He hasn't broken any laws, but he's such a criminal. These judges got it right. No, he's not. You're full of it.
No, it's Article 2 authority, and it's already been well established, that the alien actions under the Alien Enemies Act are not subject to judicial review. But it doesn't matter because the judge does that, and it throws the wrench in the works and delays them.
It's to stall it for as long as it takes to get to the Supreme Court, and there's absolutely no repercussions for the judge.
Yeah, but now they've turned it back and they've said, okay, you can pull this, we're going to pull that. Yep. Very simple.
It says here, during earlier proceedings, Judge Boasberg expressed strong concerns, they were very strong, over the use of the Alien Enemies Act, calling its application by the Trump administration incredibly troublesome and problematic. He warned of potential consequence should the administration defy further court orders. Well, up yours. The DOJ responded by citing the state secrets privilege, a legal doctrine that allows the executive branch to withhold information from disclosure if releasing it would pose a threat to national security. The DOJ, I don't know. It's just guys from Venezuela that were trained by Venezuela military, right? The DOJ submitted formal declarations from both the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Homeland Security to support the invocation of this privilege. This is Margot Cleveland. She is an excellent writer from the Federalist. So if you get a chance to read her stuff, she's awesome. She's a lawyer and she's a very good writer, as a matter of fact.
So yeah, I mean, this stuff involves our relationships with other countries. You think that's not executive privilege?
Yeah.
National security, immigration, diplomatic relations. These are executive privilege. Article 2. It's there.
Here you go. Let me just do this last one so you know that it's not just the libnuts. Ready? 7 Republican senators launch anonymous attack. How's it anonymous if we know there's 7? Anonymous attack against J.D. Vance over America First views. Can you believe? Fuck it. Republican senators against America First views, right? 7 cowardly, I love Slay News. 7 cowardly neocon Republican senators have launched an attack against Vice President J.D. Vance for reportedly giving anonymous statements trashing the VP's America First foreign policy views. Because he went over into Europe and he told them, First Amendment, all that shit, free speech. The GOP lawmakers blasted Vance privately to Jewish Insider on the condition, Jewish Insider, I don't even know what that is, on the condition of anonymity, according to the outlet. I'm a U.S. senator. I'm responsible for representing a bunch of people, but don't tell them I said this. However, the report has provoked a backlash among real conservatives, including Donald Trump Jr. Don Jr. described, you ever watch his podcast? Watch it if you haven't. It's on Rumble. He has a great podcast. Don Jr. described the quoted rhinos as cowardly neocons and genuine pussies who have constantly trashed President Trump over the years. According to Jewish Insider, the establishment senators pointed to the remarks Vance made in the Signal group chat, which was leaked via the anti-Trump news outlet, The Atlantic. It's not a news outlet. It's a shithole outlet. It's a left-wing rag. It's worse than the New York Times.
And JD wasn't there. It was a representative for him.
Yeah, well, he was on the chat actually. I saw.
Was he there? I thought he was one of the ones.
Said a couple things like "great news" or "that was great" or something like that when they told him what was being targeted and whatnot. He did chime in, but they took issue with the vice president's suggestion that the Houthis are more of a problem for Europe than the United States. They are, and his voicing of doubt that it was in the U.S.'s interest to strike the Iran-backed group in Yemen. Right. So he can't see, these guys they're all warmongers. The report reveals that establishment rhinos are concerned that Vance has an isolationist rather than a globalist worldview. It's not isolationist to say, hey, you fuck with us, we will kill you. You don't fuck with us, you won't find out. It's that simple. Pardon my French, guys, but it's that simple. And yet they call that isolationist. Like, in other words, you're not going to get involved in every globalist activity, therefore you're an isolationist. It's like one or the other. There's no in between. One anonymous coward told the outlet that a number of Republican senators are very concerned. Tough shit. They think it's quite revealing, this individual continued. It reveals a mindset that I'm sure is perplexing to our European allies. Yeah, because they're a bunch of globalists over there. One of the other senators described Vance's view as very disappointing. Good, and we hope to primary all your asses. It was shocking to me that he didn't see the need to strike back when they struck our naval vessels. That's not a British problem or a European problem. Yeah. You know what? We know the answers. We know the rest of it. All right. Oh, what's up, Colin? Just saw you, man. How you doing, brother? It's a shame because we're going to leave soon. You got here a little late. Liberals are voter ID.
Colin, are you calling me a gentleman?
There you go. What the
Maybe you haven't noticed something.
My dog is going nuts upstairs. The American public will have to step in to eliminate parasitic. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Parasitic.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of globalism,
Yeah,
you may not have noticed, but globalists can go fuck themselves.
I don't like the globalists either, because you know why? Because according to globalists, the United States is a piece of shit country that will pay for all of our programs.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, I saw a cartoon years ago. It would be called a meme today, but it was a couple of terrorists.
Colin's a personal friend of mine, guys. He's also, I'm sorry, Leanne. I'm sorry. He's also friends with Leanne. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was a couple of terrorist-looking guys sitting around saying something, and they were eating American MREs, and of course, there's an American flag on the back, on the side of the cardboard box,
right?
And one of them says to the other something to the effect of it. These Americans, they're great. They give us their food, and they even give us a flag to burn afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. Crazy.
Fuck
we had Colin on a couple times. We interviewed him, if you remember. He was pretty good too. He's always got good info. Yeah. Let me see. Hit the like button, guys, if you haven't already, please. It does help us. I keep saying it, but I know you guys do.
Yeah. We got 23 likes last I looked. Here we go. What is it now? It's 23. Yeah. Come on, you guys. Anybody who hasn't done it, let's get us another one.
Yeah.
But yeah. This is a great conversation today.
Yeah, it really is.
I think we had a really
sick fucks. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we had a pretty good night, I thought. Covered a lot of crap. There's so much. It's a fire hose of news each week. Thank God, because we'll never run out of things to talk about.
We just picked up another like. We got 24 now.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Thanks, Jimmy. Jimmy from Philly in the house again.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Yeah, thanks, bro.
All right, guys. Oh, my goodness. I think I expended all my energy in all this talking.
Yeah, I got to go too. I mean, I got to go, if you know what I mean. I'm drinking all these waters.
Yeah, well,
right,
or the hot
Thank
lemon.
you, everybody. There he is.
Thank you, people. We'll see you next week. Everybody have a good weekend.
Yeah, everybody have a great time this weekend. 25 likes. Nice. Cool. Oh, 24. We got an ops. I think you meant oops. Sick. There we go. All right, cool. Any drinking going on? Yeah, not here. I'm not allowed to drink anymore.
Yeah, if I have a drink, by God, I have one drink and I pay for it for the rest of the day. Right. I mean, the next day I pay for it most of the day.
Yeah. All right, guys, we are out of here. Have a great weekend. Watch the videos during the week. Go to rpwmedia.com. It's free. You get all your news there. That's worth reading. All right, guys. Have a good one. Thank you all for being here. Love every one of you. Have a good night, guys. Oh, and 42, if you're still here, I'll be there tomorrow.